It needs to ramp up here for a few seconds. Almost there. All indications are green. Okay, the meeting is yours. Let me know if you need anything, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Ken. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the January 12th Commerce Township Board meeting to order. If we could start off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
with liberty and justice.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I see that we have a full complement tonight. We have all the trustees, Mr. George Weber. I see Vanessa Magner. I see Trustee Bob Burkheiser, Trustee Rick Sobel. We have our Township Clerk, Melissa Creech. We have our Township Treasurer, Molly Phillips. Molly, you're smiling a little bit tonight. Would you like to share anything?
I'm a grandma.
Oh.
So Molly became a grandma today at
Yay!
4:33.
Congrats.
Baby boy. So congratulations, Molly.
Congratulations.
We have all our directors, Dave Campbell from the Planning Department, Ben Chombrowski from IT, Mr. Jim Dundas from the Fire Department, Mark Shader from Maintenance, Allison Lambert, didn't forget you this time, from the Library, Emily Yingling from Parks and Rec, Jay James from the Building, and Lieutenant Wendy Riaz from the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. So I'd like to start off. We get a motion for approval of minutes from the January meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes from the December 8th, 2020 board meeting.
Support.
Support by
Sobel.
Sobel. Any discussion? How about a roll call vote?
Phillips.
Aye.
Sobel.
Aye.
Creech. Aye. Weber.
Aye.
Burkheiser.
Aye.
Magner.
Aye.
Gray.
Aye. Okay, so first up tonight, we have a presentation from Leastic Systems. We are going to have Mike Beswick, Alex West, and Samantha Holloway present a water treatment system that they have. We're going to go over some basic background information, talk about a little bit about the initial cost, payback period, and the preliminary schedule. So an overview on this is basically what we want to do is take our sludge, our waste, and turn it into useful fertilizer. So Mike, I don't know who's going to be presenting first, but if that's you, Ken, if we could turn their cameras on.
Okay.
And that would be Mike, Alex, and Samantha.
Okay.
Mike, the show is yours.
Thank you. Screen sharing presentation coming up good?
Yep.
So thank you, everyone, for the time today. I'm here to talk about biosolids at the wastewater treatment plant and what the current management option has been for them, and the option that's being considered at this time, leveraging the ListTech technology. So we were contacted by the Oakland County operations engineer back in May of 2019. His concerns at that time were that the Commerce Wastewater Treatment Plant Biosolids Management Scheme had experienced rapidly escalating short-term costs for landfill disposal, and they were having a lot of challenge getting new interested bidders to take this material at a reasonable cost. And so in addition to that, there was concerns that these landfills would not be willing to take this material moving forward, which would put the wastewater treatment plant in a bind in terms of solving its mass balance problem of moving these solid materials off-site. So that's where ListTech comes in. ListTech, to give some background on ourselves as a company, we are a Canadian company with operations in the US and Canada. We were founded in the year 2000 at the University of Waterloo. Since then, we have patented our thermal hydrolysis process we call ListTech THP, and we are the award-winning provider of many of these biosolid solutions across North America. So just to jump in really quick about how the physical parameters of what we do work. The biosolids, as they leave the clarification steps and the various places within the wastewater treatment plant where solids are generated, those materials are not in a perfect form factor to get value for it out in the agricultural sector. And so what we do is we enhance those feed materials by eliminating pathogens through the introduction of heat, high shear mixing, and alkalinity. And the end result of that process is a Class A biosolids fertilizer that can be sold to local agricultural markets. And so what Listech's here to do is to provide a sustainable option for biosolids management across North America by recovering these nutrients and getting them out to field. So just to give you guys some background on where our existing operations are, we've got a significant operating footprint within the province of Ontario. We have installations in Western Canada and Saskatchewan, a number of US deployments in California, St. Cloud, Minnesota, and recently we've got a new project coming online for South Huron Valley, Michigan. So to give a sense of what our approach for this opportunity is, it's really all about maximizing the value that can be found inherently in these wastewater solids. There's a significant portion of nitrogen and phosphorus which the agricultural sector is looking to utilize, but it needs to be in the right form factor that allows these farmers to get the material that they're looking for when they want it, and in the format that best supports their operations. So the way that Listech works is that we develop these relationships after installing our technology. We develop these relationships with local farmers, and then we actually market and distribute these fertilizer on behalf of the township here. So it truly is a turnkey operation. That's what we bring, is that we look after the wastewater treatment plant to make sure that these materials are being produced properly and being managed properly. And what that really looks like in terms of the optics of what we do, this is really the nuts and bolts of it. Once the material's been processed into a concentrated high solids liquid fertilizer product, we truck it out to the local agricultural fields. An injector like the one that you see here injects it into the soil. And afterwards, that's pretty much the deal. The farmer pays us for the product that they've purchased, and that's how we provide a sustainable option for biosolids management without building up any sort of mass balance anywhere at a localized site. This just gives an idea of our operating experience and the scale of our operations. We provide this service to more than 40 utilities and generators across North America, including some big names like the city of San Francisco, the city of Santa Rosa, Palo Alto, St. Cloud, Minnesota, and many more in Canada. And as you can see, we've done very well with the sale of our product, and our scale continues to build as we build confidence in the marketplace and find new opportunities to recover these valuable nutrients for customers. Just gives you a sense of what is different about Listech versus what Oakland County is currently doing now. Currently, you guys have seen rapidly escalating biosolids management costs because of that landfill tipping fee. What Listech does is try and flip that equation. We take a fertilizer, and in the first year of production, we market it out and build those relationships with the agricultural customers. And, in those first few years, we really demonstrate the value of the product that we produce and why it is superior to a traditional biosolids product. And what we find is that by building local demand, the word gets around and we're able to increase the price of that material, which per the arrangements that we set up with these wastewater treatment plants actually benefits the generator, because any of the revenue that is produced above a certain strike point is shared 50-50 between both Listec and the utility. So, we're proud to say that some of our customers are probably among the only groups in North America that have actually seen a consistent decline in the cost of their biosolids management. So that's sort of the Listec business model in a nutshell. We've spent significant effort in recent months to look at how this may fit into the wastewater treatment plant itself physically. And what's great is that it's an ideal fit for Listec. There is essentially all of the infrastructure that is required to make this program work already in place. Large concrete storage tanks for storage of the fertilizer product until the farmers are looking to purchase it. The drive-through bays that were installed as a part of the dewatering upgrade project are perfectly suited to accommodate a Listec THP process train. And in addition to that, we're actually going to use those loading bays as well to load the fertilizer on the way out. So that's a really nice fit. In addition to that, we also get all the benefits of the contingency options that are there from the original construction. Listec is a very simple automated system. We design it such that a wastewater treatment plant operator is well capable of operating the system and producing our product. No special licensing or designations required. Yeah, and just to sort of spell it out of what this looks like in process flow, the solids that are generated from across the treatment plant go into belt filter presses, which thicken them. They then are conveyed into our staging area, our staging tank, which feeds it into the Listec reactor. Inside the reactor, we increase the alkalinity of the material. We increase the temperature to kill the pathogens. We shear it and homogenize the material, and then we pump it out to storage until such time it eventually gets out to the agricultural land where it can be sold. So just to give you guys a quick idea of what this looks like, this is the installation in North Battleford, Saskatchewan. As you can see, they had a very similar setup to Commerce prior to our involvement with that wastewater treatment plant. Essentially a drive-through truck bay where materials were loaded before they would go to the landfill. In a similar story, the landfill cut them off. They were given an order to find a new solution, which is how Listec came in. What we did is we retrofitted that existing building to install our equipment, which led to a really low cost capital program for them and solve their issue in a very rapid time span. So that's essentially what we're talking about for the Commerce plant. Looking south at building 105 or 106, if you guys are familiar with them, essentially this is where the former truck loading areas were. We are to install our equipment in one of those truck loading bays, leaving the remaining 3 in place, while at the same time during fertilizer loading season, using one for loading of the fertilizer product into tanker trucks before it can be moved to the agricultural fields. This is just another pictorial of what it looks like. As you can see, again, the conveyors are coming in, dropping it into our staging tank. This is really where the magic happens and we meet our Class A criteria. So in summary, really the objective of this program would be to take the challenges associated with landfill disposal away, remove the uncertainty associated with rapidly escalating costs, and give a sustainable option for the long term. That's really the way our company is designed. We provide this as a comprehensive product management service where the business of making clean water is left to the wastewater treatment plant, and the business of marketing a fertilizer product is left to the specialists at our company who have an agricultural background. The benefit of this is that with the revenue sharing option, It does allow for a hedge against future price escalation. In the event that commodities come up in price, you guys are in the fertilizer sales business. And when commodities go up, so do fertilizer prices. And you can see how that does help control your costs when it comes to solids management. In addition to that, it's a very small processing equipment footprint. And as we mentioned, it fits very, very well into the existing wastewater treatment plant and the infrastructure that has been built there. As I mentioned, the system's fully automated, very simple to operate, and it will not require any additional operators at the wastewater treatment plant. Of course, the big benefit environmentally is that this will transition the wastewater treatment plant into a place that is, truly innovative, recovering valuable resources, and at the same time, really helping out those local agricultural markets with a valuable fertilizer product at a reduced cost that's sourced locally. Last thing I should mention is that we have received project support from Eagle. They are aware of the project and have committed some funding through their Green Projects Fund. So with that, that's my presentation. Happy to take any questions at this time.
Mike, trustee Magner here. Does the township get any kickback from when you sell the fertilizer?
Yes. So this is, it can be a bit of a challenge to explain, but essentially how it works is in the first few years, we're new on the scene. List to Grow will be a new product for the local market. And in those first few years, we're trying our best to get as many different farmers who are influential in the area to take on the product, give it a try in their fields, see the results. And we're always confident it works. Again, the big thing to look here is that it does work. Mm-hmm. And then once they've had a chance to try out that product, get a feel for it, see the value, and we've built some market capacity for moving the product, that is when we bring our prices up to more of the mean prices we're looking for that support essentially a kickback and a revenue share, we call it. And the way that has been structured in this deal is above. So essentially, Listac will enter the scene. Probably in the first year, we'll sell this product for somewhere around $4 a ton. That's sort of like a loss leader price. In that first year, there will be no revenue coming back to the township. However, once we've established our market for the end product, we do increase the prices. You can see the prices here increased quite substantively, in a very short period of time. And above that, that $5 per ton strike price, 50% of it is shared with the township. And so what that does is that it puts basically both of us remain with an incentive to support this community program.
So Mike, several questions, but just to tag in on the one there. I mean, it sounds like you're trying to undercut the market, get them hooked on your product, and then raise the price. That sounds like a drug dealer, to be honest, but since that's what I do.
Well, it works well, I've heard.
Well, I'm sure, but in all honesty, how does the $4 or $5 per ton compare with normal fertilizer pricing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that you can break it down, what farmers typically pay for is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Those are inputs that they'll go to a chemical fertilizer company, pay a straight per acre cost to have applied. And so that's sort of how we benchmark ourselves. But our sales pitch to the farmer is that you're getting your NPK that you were going to pay the commercial chemical fertilizer company for anyhow. But in addition to that, you're getting carbon that's going to build your soil, and you're getting all the micronutrients that are required to sustain crop growth. And that's a big benefit that really doesn't get priced in. To answer your question directly, starting at that $4 or $5 a ton rate, Sam, feel free to correct me, but I believe that's somewhere around the 40 to 50% of the value of what's actually in there. So
if we're trying to compare apples now, I mean, and you're letting, and obviously the customer knows that this price over time is going to go higher.
Absolutely. Okay. We always make sure we're upfront about that this is an introductory price. to have you try the product and see it for yourself and witness our service in terms of what we deliver in the field.
So I called our local farmer, since we don't have that many around. His comment was, or question, is that does it meet the Food Quality Protection Act requirements? Apparently that was something that started about 3 or 4 years ago. Hasn't really been very active in this current administration, but is expected in the next administration that it might be. So having said that, does it meet all those requirements? Meaning, I'm assuming, meaning that it can go on fruit and vegetable.
No, so that's not really how we run our programs, and there's sort of 2 reasons for that. The vast majority of Listagrow that is sold to essentially cash croppers who are really hungry for nutrients. They're usually our best customer because they want the most nitrogen and phosphorus to grow their corn, wheat, safflower, canola, whatever it may be. And so and again, there is an optics angle there in addition to that. So we do not go on food crops. That's not part of our business model. We stick to the cash crops where, firstly, we know we can move a lot of volume quickly, which is key to making the operation efficient. And also they're willing to pay because they're most on the lookout for nutrient inputs into their fields.
So what you mean is corn that goes into animals when you say cash crop? Is that what you mean?
That's
Okay.
exactly what I mean.
The other, well, it probably wouldn't matter, but this is maybe for the attorneys. I was told that we had a ordinance against the use of biosolids that was passed many, many years ago. So I'm not sure if that's still in the books or not, but I'll throw that out there to research it. Although in Commerce Township, we don't have a whole lot of we'll be looking for. Do the farmers have to make a modification to their equipment to use this product?
No, so that's part of what we bring is that we do the fertilizer application as a service. So we'll actually have this equipment or something similar to it show up on the farmer's field and apply the material for them on there as a service, essentially.
So where around here are you going to do it? I saw most of your business look like California, Minnesota, Canada. So where in Michigan? I mean, and you said one, I don't know where South Huron Valley is, except that sounds like us. But so where do you have customers in this area?
Yes, we've done significant legwork to identify those customers and ensure that we can run this program and deliver on what we're expecting to here.
Because my concern would be that we go through this, besides that we're buying it, so we're paying $5.5 million or so. We're absorbing all that cost, and then we're stuck with this fertilizer because nobody wants to buy it. So what assurances do you have that we're going to get rid of this product and not be stuck with it?
So as part of a capital program, we actually put together a product management contract where we guarantee that the material will be moved. Okay. So that's how you cover yourself off and essentially turn that into a turnkey program, such that that liability is on Listec to move that material.
And then the other, I saw that there's a 1-year warranty on this. Is there an annual maintenance program, or is there something that needs to be done to this equipment?
It's wastewater treatment plant operational equipment. We do offer service contracts with some of our customers if they're interested in that, whereby we'll do like annual inspections basically and assist with the maintenance. But for the most part, these are pumps, tanks, a boiler, pretty standard equipment for the average wastewater treatment plant operator, I believe.
So we don't have to necessarily call Listec if something wasn't working right. We can call somebody. Technically, we could call somebody else for a pump, boiler, whatever needed to be done.
For sure. I should stress though that Listec does provide continued support for our systems, and most of our new deployments come with a 3G tie-in, such that any time of day you give us a call if you've got a major issue, we'll dial in, help you troubleshoot that, debug it, and get you running again. But that being said, you don't need us. If you want to call your SCADA technician, if you want to call your mechanical contractor to take a look at a pump, there's nothing proprietary about the individual pieces themselves. It's the overall system and our approach to moving this material that's proprietary.
5G in the United States. I don't know if you're sitting in Canada or not.
Yeah, I guess I better update that, eh?
Thank you.
So Mike, this is George Weber. A couple of questions, and Bob actually asked most of the questions that I have. Who owns the end product once it comes out of our plant? Who owns the fertilizer?
So the ownership of the fertilizer, and this is a little tricky because of how US laws are written on this, but you guys own your material and you own your fertilizer. Once it's been applied, at that point, I believe there is some continued ownership just because of how EPA has written those regulations. But once the farmer has purchased it, you know, I'd have to double check on that.
So so in this model, so we would front 5 million, and then we can have the discussion later in the evening, maybe when it's on the agenda with Jason, but somewhere between a 9 and 20 year payback on that. Do you have any models with any of the municipalities where you fund the material up front and then you take ownership of all of the byproduct and so no revenue sharing after the fact? And you can sell it for whatever you want for as long as it's operational?
The challenge, so we actually own 2 of our own plants. They're much larger than what we're considering here. There's one that services the Greater Toronto area. They do about 150,000 tons a year. And then there's another in California that services the San Francisco Bay Area. And they do a similar amount of material. The challenge that we run into for places like here are that it's a much smaller system and the scale is a lot smaller. And so it can be a challenge to kind of make that math work, because there's so much efficiency from having the wastewater treatment plant operators, you know, monitoring the system for a few hours a day only, and that sort of thing. Can lease agreements be worked out? It's possible. You know, anything's possible in terms of financing and leasing. But in general, you know, the way we prefer it is that if you guys are operating it, we'd like you to own it. And this is really one of those cases where it makes all the sense in the world for this wastewater treatment plant to operate the system themselves.
Okay. And I get from your standpoint, I get why you would like that model.
Well, we do both. I mean, to be totally honest, we do both. We actually have one customer that does both models with us.
So when you mentioned, and Bob asked it, when you mentioned South Huron Valley, who is that?
Yeah, so that's the Shuva South Huron Valley Utility Authority wastewater treatment plant. It's down near Gibraltar.
Okay.
So that's the Jacobs Run plant. Farouz Fathazam, if you know him.
Okay, have not heard of the Gibraltar area referred to as South Huron Valley. So like generally that's what we're referred to in this this part of the geography. I don't have any other questions at this time.
So George is concerned with Mike. He wants to know who owns it. I'm concerned, do we have any liability? So if a farmer takes this and puts it in the material and someone gets injured, sick, dies, whatever, can they come back to Commerce Township because of that? And I'm not sure if it's a you question or it's a Hans, our attorney, question.
I mean, my understanding of pollution laws in the U.S. is that essentially the generator never escapes liability. So I would double check that with your attorneys, but at this time I don't have a better answer for that.
So if someone gets salmonella and it's tracked to farm that our stuff was applied on. While it's not supposed to be going into human consumption, who knows? So have you had issues with that on your any of your facilities from a?
So that's absolutely
I
not.
mean,
We
is
have
this
never had that
tested?
issue. The issue
I
that you're
guess I'll say, is
describing.
this tested and cultured before at some point? Is there some quality assurance in this?
Absolutely. So basically what the process is it's like a pasteurization tank. So this material is coming in, there's significant E. coli counts. That's why they refer to that either as a class B biosolid, or in this case, it's a raw biosolid. And what that means that essentially the microbial activity is quite high in the substrate as it enters our process. And that's predictable. That's what one would expect. But what makes it a Class A product is basically two criteria. Is there any pathogens to be found within a very small limit? No, that allows it to be Class A. And of course, there's also the requirements for processing that we follow, which essentially means that the material must come up to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and be held there for 30 minutes before it leaves our processing reactor. So when you buy a Listec system, you're really mitigating a lot of that risk. And the thing that I guess I would respond to that is Class B programs run across America, where that's basically the risk that all utilities accept, is that they truck out a Class B material that they know has significant E. coli counts. It's managed in a professional manner that respects setbacks and incorporates the material properly. And there's very rarely issues associated with that. Now, Listec takes it a step further by eliminating all the pathogens through our process and also injecting the material into the soil. So by injecting it into the soil, it's a significant step up compared to some of these dewatered programs, where you're essentially kind of flinging it onto the soil and then incorporating it with a disc afterwards.
Can I offer a couple of comments?
Absolutely.
A couple of questions have been raised, and I just want to maybe try to address them best I can. First of all, in terms of the concern about what happens with the material once it leaves the Commerce Township wastewater treatment plant, I think there's two comments on that. Number one is, obviously we're still responsible for that material to that extent that it leaves our plant anyway for a landfill. Obviously it's contained in a landfill, and there's some negligence or some protection there. Number two, though, is I guess my question, and it kind of goes back to George and Rick's questions: who sells it, who owns it, who sells it? If the township is the general protection of governmental immunity, if it's not making a proprietary function and not making money off the sale of the material, it's not engaged in a business transaction, then arguably I would take the position that a governmental immunity still would apply. It's a governmental function, it has to dispose of its waste in some way. As long as it does so without gross negligence, it should be fine. So those are two questions, that issue. The third thing I want to address was Bob's question on the fertilizers and landfill. I just did a quick search of our code. I only see that when you apply to fertilizer, and I couldn't find anything in biosolids, was to lawns and yards and stuff like that. My understanding from your presentation tonight is that would not be a major source of disposition of these materials, correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, it's not feasible with the tonnage that must be moved.
Sure.
Thanks, Hans.
When do you expect the Gibraltar or the South Huron Valley plant to start construction and then become operational?
So we're looking to begin construction at the beginning of summer this year. We're currently in design now. I really hate quoting commissioning dates right now with all that's going on, but we are gunning for the fall here.
How far ahead are they from where we are?
Probably about 6 months. Okay. 8 months.
So Mike, if we assume we move forward with this during the construction phase, since it looks like you're using potentially the same bays that we use for our trucking, how do we dispose of the material while construction is going on?
Great question. Thankfully, the previous engineers did a great job solving that one for us. So we'll be occupying this bay here and taking it out of commission. And at that time, we'll still have 3 remaining bays for the outtake of the material to the landfill.
Okay.
So basically, since we're at only 25% capacity or so, we've got extra bays that aren't being utilized right now. Is that a fair comment?
Yes. Yes, it is. This is Jason.
It looks like we've got some redundancy in the way it was designed.
Right.
So Mike, this current or this system that's being proposed, how much of our capacity, I mean, is this something that would have, is the system fully being used with what we have now, and we would have to expand it if our business got bigger? Is this able to handle, if we're at 25%, can it handle 100% or 50%? What's the
Yeah,
deal?
absolutely. So we're fortunate that the construction of the existing loading bay was such that we can install our largest module, which you get really good efficiency of scale by doing. And so we've got somewhere around 40% spare capacity in that module for additional processing. In addition to that, what's nice about the system is that it's quite simple to start and stop. And so if you are interested in running for extended hours, then there's also the opportunity to extend its lifespan, or its utility that way, I should say.
Jason, does this change the amount of wastewater that we can handle, or is that a limitation somewhere further up the food chain?
That's further up. This is the end product that they're working with. They're working with the sludge that gets taken to a landfill and using that.
It doesn't speed up any of the other stuff that's happening.
It doesn't do anything till the end process. And what you asked about, can it be expanded? It would just take more operator hours to have the system pressing and running sludge if we did have more flow coming in at this point. So that it's operator hours that would be increased cost, since they have built in a larger tank on this one.
If we were to move forward today, when would the first round of fertilizer be ready to go? How long is this whole process going to take?
I don't know if Mike wants to answer this, but we estimate 12 to 18 months from the time we get the go-ahead, and upfront work is going to be permitting. So we need to get everything approved through Eagle, get a 30% design, but it's a design build. So they work with contractors that they'll use. So the pricing will be, when we present that to you next time, it'll be very on the mark. Once we get approvals and find out if we need to do anything else besides what the system is proposing here.
Jason, what's our annual landfill cost? What was it approximately for 2020, or what's it estimated to be for 2020?
In 2020, our hauling costs totaled $260,000, and that was actually a low year of tonnage. That was 3,176 tons. In 2019, it was $210,000, and that was for 3,508 tons. So $260,000 to answer your question.
Okay. Which is interesting. I would have expected, with everybody staying home, that it would have been higher in 2020 than in 2019.
Yeah, it's been fascinating, I'll tell you, in the biosolids industry. So we have both the San Francisco contract and the Palo Alto contract, and we actually saw visibly the movement of tech workers out of the city and out of Palo Alto. It was fascinating.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Mike?
I guess I'm just wondering, what is the benefit to the township for moving forward with this? Is it just being green, or the financial piece? What's the end benefit?
The biggest benefit is that we're right now at the mercy of what the landfills charge us to dispose of the sludge. And that's the biggest factor in determining the payback period. So since 2013, it's increased an average per year of 35% for the hauling costs. So in the letter later, you can see I use 10, 22, and 35%, because before 2015, it was 10%. So it's the environmental factor. And then it's also that it's possible that landfills might not accept this waste that we have. And then the increase in costs, they don't get a lot of bidders on it.
And at the same time, you are getting the green benefit, which is why Eagle is looking to contribute under the green project funding. Essentially, you're going from an unsustainable practice of putting your sludge into a landfill that will someday be exhausted of capacity, versus the more sustainable program where we're basically meeting the needs of agriculture at the same time as we're generating nutrients from the city. It's a great story, I believe.
Anyone else?
Just a quick question. I'm just curious, maybe Jason, or like, and kind of wouldn't be surprised if there were some grants or some other financial incentives that might be out there. Are you guys aware of anything like that?
Yeah, later in the board meeting, when I go over this agenda item, there's a green project funding, which we've done green projects in the past, the heat recovery system at the treatment plant. Back then it was a 35% project forgiveness. Right now they're getting a lot of applications and it's around 5%. So there is some green project funding, but going for the SRF loan is a low interest loan, which it's one of the lowest interest rates you can get for a 20-year loan. So that included with the green project funding are two reasons why we're looking at applying for that.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, with that then, Mike, I want to say thank you for presenting tonight. And we'll have a little bit further discussion on this project underneath the new business later on tonight. But thank you again for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate it, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
You too.
Item number 1, can I get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Wagner, supported by Sobel. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Wagner,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Burkheiser,
Bob.
Aye. Am I not loud?
Gray.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Motion carries.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, next up is going to be public comments. So anybody who is calling in at this time, you can have some comments for the township board. That we ask that you please give us your name and address when you start. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. This is the time for, again, just for comments. It doesn't mean that this is going to be a question and answer session. So if you do have comments, Ken, is that, I believe, a *9 to raise their hand for you to open your line?
That's correct, Mr. Gray.
Okay, so again, the public, if you'd like to make any comments, please hit *9 on your phone. And again, this will be a 2-minute limit on your comments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gray. Again, any callers that are on the line, if you'd like to speak, press *9 on your keypad. We do have a few callers that have their hands raised. We're going to take these in order that they came in. Some of the callers have caller ID blocking, so I will not be able to announce the last 4 digits of your number, but please listen to your handset because I will be sending you a prompt to unmute. Okay, we're going to start with the first caller here. The last 4 digits of 6525. Please press *6 and unmute, and please state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead,
Can
caller.
everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi. My name is Christina Oraha. I am calling from 8530 Cascade in Commerce Township. I'm calling in. Thank you for taking my call. Just if you wanted to give a minute update on this, the Cascade Street traffic barrier. We lived on Cascade for about 17 years now. I've got 3 kids who are constantly outside playing, and we've just kind of run into this problem over the course of the past 17 years with cars kind of streaming by the street and going quickly and not stopping at the stop signs. And we really feel as part of the Russell Beach Association that these traffic barriers would really benefit us in having them, especially with the businesses that are being developed in the area, bringing a lot of traffic and cars trying to pass through our street, trying to get from one side to Cooley Lake Road, from one side to the other side. Yeah, they use it as a shortcut essentially. And basically looking after the safety of our kids being here and as they grow. And we have a park across the street. It's very difficult for them to even cross the street without us being part of that. And basically looking for some support there on behalf of our association.
Okay. Is that it then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for your call.
Sure.
Hey, Ken, you're muted.
Thank you. The next caller is a caller ID caller. As soon as you hear the announcement in your earpiece, please press *6 on your keypad and begin speaking. Again, you'll only hear this in the earpiece. Go ahead, caller. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Hi, my name is Tricia Dunn. I live in 8492 Cascade Street. I've lived here for about 13 years when I married my second husband. His family's been here since the 1930s on this property. What I've noticed over the last 13 years is that the traffic is just getting ridiculous on our street. I can't even back out of my driveway to get to work in the morning. People won't let me out. It just keeps coming and coming. Finally, I just have to back out and take a chance that they're going to stop for me. Once in a while, somebody does let me in. But I'm afraid for the safety of my grandchildren. I don't let them go out there. There's a park that's kitty corner from our property, and kids are always running around there and coming back and forth between the driveways, and the park. And I can't believe that we don't have something more safe because of the grandkids. I mean, kids and grandchildren. The people. What was I going to say? Anyhow, it's just been a hard time to live on this street. They always say location, location, location. And if I hadn't fallen in love with my husband, I would not have moved here because of the traffic. That's how bad. I mean, it's just to me, it's a fix. It's a simple fix with a barrier, making it one way because the traffic is going from the east to the west. And that's when they have done traffic studies. And I don't know if you have that, but how many people were going within a 2-hour period, I believe. It was just ridiculous. There's only like 40 houses on our street. But I think there was something like, I don't know, I might be wrong, maybe 700 people going back and forth on that time period. Maybe I'm over exaggerating, but it feels like it sometimes. I just hope you'll look at this because it's a simple fix. It's not a lot of money that we're asking to chip in to get this barrier, but I think it would help. I know they've done it over by the the Dairy Queen. They closed that one a number of years ago. We have checked with the fire departments and the police departments to make sure, they were okay with this because we were looking at other ways of just closing off the whole area. But we wanted to be considerate for the fire trucks to get through if there was ever an accident down right there at Cooley Lake and Union Lake, the second Cooley Lake and Union Lake, because there's two Cooley Lake areas. So right by the Dairy Queen, if there was ever an accident there, they might have to take our street. So I just hope you'll think about this and really consider it and help us out. and the traffic has gotten worse since the Four Corners has gone in. And that's
Hey,
just,
Tricia?
we don't even have, yeah,
I-
2 minutes is up.
I appreciate it. Yeah, your 2 minutes is up. I'll let you
Okay,
go over quite a bit.
all right.
But we really appreciate your input, and we will take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next caller is also a blocked caller ID. Caller, please listen to your earpiece. You will be sent a command to unmute. That command is *6. Please press *6 and then state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead,
Can you
caller.
hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Hi, my name's Tom Dunn. I am the husband of the last speaker. I've been out here for most of my life, and on this street here, since I've been out here, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, especially with all the new projects going up around on the corners over there, and there's a ton of apartments going up, and there's going to be more and more traffic, and I was driving down the street one day and doing the speed limit, and a lady passed me going down this street here because I guess I wasn't going fast enough for her, and she blew right through the stop sign. Other cars, I've seen a couple cars racing down this street. She's got kids down here. I got 9 grandkids, and I worry about them going over to the park and that. Some are older now, but and luckily none of them been hit. Let's see, I got something written here. Anyways, there's kids riding bikes down the street now in the summertime and the fall and that. And there's more and more kids on the street than there was 10 years ago, and they're all young kids. We need this barrier to stop the traffic. And when them apartments get built down there, it's going to be crazy. It's crazy now. On the stop signs, we try to have them work. People come down the street, they blow right through the stop sign. And a lot of kids are school buses coming down the street, and the kids getting out the school bus and go across the street, and somebody goes to passenger, you don't know what's going to happen. I was almost hit one time crossing the street going to a park and that. And I do a lot of walking down the street. I try to walk a few miles every day, and cars come down here. They're going both ways. They got to stop. You get one car, they go on the other side. But I just want to mention another thing too. The street is getting all colors, kind of chuck holes on it. And I know it's a county street, so but I appreciate if there was some kind of something done to help us out with this here. We need, for the safety of the kids in the street, the safety of everybody walking down the street, especially with this virus thing. There's more and more people walking. So thank you we need your help. Thank you.
Tom, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And just to let everybody know who's calling in, if we are calling in for the Cascade, we did receive your letters that Mr. Drew sent in. So if they're the same sort of comments, we have seen those already. So we just wanted to let you know that we do have those. So Ken, if you want to take the next caller, and we will be discussing this later on in new business as well too. So right now we're just taking, any comments that we have not heard. So Ken, if you want to take the next call.
Next caller is also a blocked caller ID. Caller, listen into your headset. I will be sending you a command to unmute. Please press *6 on your keypad to unmute. And please state your name and address for the record, caller.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Katie Roberts. I live at 8548 Cascade Street, and I am calling in about item 7B, the Cascade Street traffic barrier. I did send a letter and several emails, so I won't be repetitive, but I wanted to personally call tonight to appeal to all of you to please consider this proposal. My husband and I have lived here for 10 years. We have 4 kids. Again, the traffic is, it's very unsafe for our children and for us as pedestrians. There's no sidewalks. The street is narrow. So again, this small cost, in my opinion, for Commerce Township would really increase the quality of our lives right now and again in the future as more of this development is done and it creates more traffic. So we're just looking for your support tonight. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we still have some more callers here. Another blocked caller ID. Caller, please listen into your handset. I will send you a command to unmute. And again, please press *6 to unmute. And please state your name and address for the record, caller.
Mike Farr, 8291 Cascade Street. I'm here with my wife, Sarah. I guess I'll be the minority in this discussion, but we actually oppose the concrete barrier. We are one of the first houses directly west of where the barrier will be going in the position. We do have a 9-year-old daughter as well, who we will not let play in the street due to the traffic and due to the speed of vehicles that pass through from Cooley Lake Road to Cooley Lake Road. We are just proposing different alternatives other than the barrier. We, one, don't believe that people will respect it, and they're going to disrespect it just as they do the stop signs or the speed limit signs that are posted throughout the neighborhood. Maybe something more simplistic from our point of view would be something other than that, such as speed bumps or a reduced mile per hour or speed throughout the neighborhood. We understand everybody's safety concerns, again, as we have a 9-year-old and we don't allow her to play in the street. But we just don't feel that this is the best solution for the problems we face. With that, thank you for letting us have this opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, caller with the last 4 digits, 4252. Please press *6 on your keypad and state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, hi, this is Greg Strimpick. I'm at 8298 Cascade. I've been address 7 years. And I support the points made by the majority of the folks. Very dangerous. And again, it may be better for a house or two, but the road does turn, it does get narrow. People like myself have been making home improvements and the driveways are very narrow. And when somebody walks behind the car to open the trunk, whether it's an adult or a child, you're at risk. And why is that? Because cars come down, once they make that turn, once they go past the gas station, they start heading west, they speed. They speed and they maybe stopped at the stop sign, not sure. But, you know, I'm prior to that stop sign where they're gaining the momentum and it's dangerous. So it's dangerous for my grandkids. It's dangerous for anybody that comes to my home. As well as, you know, the limited site and so on. The other thing I would ask, you know, that I would challenge is I'm not sure there's really any purpose of a pass-through there other than to make it convenient to go from Cooley Lake to Cooley Lake through a residential cut-through. So to me, that's not justified. For all the negatives you've heard, and all it does is save somebody 2 minutes because they don't want to wait for a light and, you know, make the turns accordingly that are already laid out. For example, in front of the Dairy Queen, they can get back on Cooley Lake, but they want to save, you know, save 30 seconds by racing down a residential street. So, you know, I'm really hoping that, you know, you make the right decision. A barricade is absolutely the only way. Unless you're going to have a cop 24/7, which you're not. So I think a barricade's it, and there should be no traffic that way. It's not a through street. And for the residents, we'll put up with the inconvenience, and it's more than welcome, for the safety as mentioned, because that's the ultimate purpose.
Greg, we hit 2 minutes. I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. Ken?
Yes, the next caller, caller with the last 4 digits of 2966. Please press *6 on your keypad and unmute, and then state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller. Caller, you need to press *6 on your keypad to unmute. There we go. Go ahead, caller.
David Scott, 5545 Paradise Drive. Happy New Year, Township Board. It's nice to see all of you here on the Zoom meeting. Just 3 quick topics. The Listic, I'm glad to see that you're researching, doing the work there. It would be a phenomenal thing to continue since Treasurer Phillips and I began going to those meetings with Jason, our township engineer. It'll be a leap forward to us being a community that really recycles. Currently, nothing gets recycled except for metal. We sort our trash, it gets sold off. Listic is a quality product. It's a good thing for the future. It should always be done. The second thing, please Township register with Flag Honors so that you can get the information out to the public that will tell the businesses and everyone in town when their flags should be at half-staff. We've missed several days where the flags were not at half-staff for the death and funeral of a soldier on the weekend. And now with the Capitol officers, thank you for finally putting them down today after I made some calls to the Township Board, and thank you board members for addressing it. The last thing, Cascade Street. Cascade Street is a tri-party project that I don't think we should be spending our money on. Lachlan and Union Lake barricaded their road at their expense. Warbonnet and Pinto barricaded their road at their expense. Cherry and Inverary and Commerce Township, all 3 sites, did it at their own expense. This is money you should be putting on the Union Lake upgrades, or if you're going to do a residential road, do Juniper Street. Cascade is a site where our 36 sheriff's deputies should be addressing it. They're doing nothing. They're not out there writing tickets, making traffic stops, and being seen. Have them do their job. After 6 months, if it still is a problem, then revisit it. You have a solution. With that, have a wonderful evening. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, next caller is also a blocked caller ID. Caller, please listen in your headset. As soon as you get my command, please press *6 on your keypad and state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Don Young. I live at 8566 Cascade Street. I'm calling about the Cascade barrier. So I'm going to start with a little background from my childhood. I grew up in Walled Lake, and I remember my parents taking me to 12 Oaks as a kid on East Lake Drive around Walled Lake. And around maybe 10 or 12, a kid was hit on East Lake Drive. And then Walled Lake, or the community, decided to put in stop signs, speed bumps, and reduce the speed on the street. I think we have a similar situation here where we have houses that are close to the road. We have lots of young families with kids. Sorry, I'm not good at public speaking. And we also have people who don't live in the neighborhood that are trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. So I would like to see us be proactive here and install this barrier to help protect the kids in the neighborhood. We don't want something to happen like what happened at Wall Lake when I was a kid. What we often see here is the police will patrol Cascade Street, and we will have 3, 4, 5 cars pulled over in front of the houses at the end of the street, and the police officers just handing out ticket after ticket. So they've tried this, and we still have people racing down the street. So I think we have a real good opportunity to put in the barrier, protect the kids and the seniors and the adults in the neighborhood with a barrier. And I hope you'll consider this this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, caller with the last 4 digits of 1009, please press *6 on your keypad. And then again, state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Good evening. This is Penny Strumpik. I'm on 8544 Cascade. I will agree with the majority of the callers about the barrier. I too wrote letters. I realize you guys have gotten lots of information on this topic. So what I'll add that maybe is net new or thought for consideration, we bought this house in 2019, and certainly there was already high volume of traffic, and that was a consideration we had to, weigh and ultimately decide to still purchase. But I think the change is with the development at the corner with 4 Corners and the increased traffic that is a direct result of that seems to me to be a responsibility that's why I believe that Commerce Township should participate in helping to fund that, because it's almost a continuation of the development, and the increased traffic that we're experiencing is a direct result of that development, in my opinion. So no further color to add besides what I've already submitted, but wanted to share that additional point.
Okay, thank you so much.
And Mr. Supervisor, that appears to be the last caller with their hand raised at this time.
Okay, great. Well, at this time then, I will close the public comments. And thank everybody for your calls. Item number 3, board appointments. First appointment is a reappointment of Barb Rosman for the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Make a motion to reappoint Barbara, although we all know her and love her as Rusty Rossman, to the ZBA. She's been on there actually longer than I have, so I'm not sure what the number of years are, but she's knows all the history of any zoning in request for ZBA, and she's got a great memory and does a great job of running our board. So I want to see her keep her on the board.
Okay.
Support.
Support by Magner. Roll call. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Stovall,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Phillips,
Molly?
Aye.
Creech, aye. Gray,
All right. Okay, motion carries. Second appointment, Keith Reynolds. Appoint Keith to the board review for a 2-year period. Keith is new to the board. He's a state licensed appraiser and is currently a realtor as well. He has been appraisal for several years, and he is on many professional boards. You guys should have his resume in your packet. So I'd like to see if we get him appointed for 2 years. We could get a motion.
Is Keith on the call by chance?
I asked him to be on the call. Keith, are you on the call? If so, can you raise your hand, Keith, by hitting *9? Ken, do you see Keith raising his hand?
Yeah, I was looking for him. I don't see any callers with their hands raised at this time.
So I'll ask a question while maybe we find him, and it really goes probably to Hans. Is there potential for what I'll call conflict of interest, or as being a builder or real estate or any of the home appraisal? I mean, that's sort of all fits into that. So I can see where that help qualifies folks for this, but how do we handle that?
As long as he's not dealing with his own property, and he follows the same rules that other members of the township, that the residents that are on boards and commissions follow, there is no conflict. As long as it's not an entity that he is related to, his own property, something like that, then there's no conflict.
Well, Larry, I'll make a motion to appoint Keith Reynolds to the Board of Review for a 2-year term to expire December 31st, 2022.
Okay.
Support.
Support by Phillips. Discussion? How about a roll call vote?
Weber,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Burkhalter,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Gray.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Item 4, introductions. Hans and Fire Chief Dundas are going to introduce an amendment to our 1.051 to 2021 International Fire Code.
Yeah, I'll start, Chief. You pick on the details. Before you tonight is an amendment to the Code of Ordinances to include an updated version of the National Fire Code. Our last version of that code was adopted in 2012. We are not required to update it, with every edition. There were additions in 2015 and 2018 as well. It's about every 3 years. And we chose not to adopt those updates just because I think at least in one of them, it refers to the cryogenic fluids and we had none in and didn't feel it was necessary to update it. However, at some point in time, it gets 2012 is pretty old now. And I think the chief wanted to update that. There are quite a few changes, and I'm assuming that the fire department's pretty much on board with that. So with that, I'll turn over to you, Chief.
Yeah, this is kind of a no-brainer. We wanted a compatible code to the building code, which updates through the state of Michigan. So this document is completely compatible with the building code Commerce is using. There were a few minor changes. I did work with legal counsel, Robert Goldman and Marcia in Hans's office there to go through the code with a fine-tooth comb. And I'm just simply asking that we move from the 2012 version to the 2021 version.
Chief, just for my my own knowledge, what's an example of a flammable cryogenic?
Well, you got me there. That's a good one.
Is it?
Have to look that up.
I always thought a cryogenic would be like nitrogen. I was not.
So it's
sure
cryogenic is just basically anything that's stored at a very cold temperature. And that is not necessarily my area of expertise, George, but there was not any major conflict with that for Commerce in this year's code. There were a few things that I did look at that had to do mostly with sprinkler protection. There was some concern from legal counsel about retrofitting certain buildings that are required to put sprinkler protection in that may have already been built. But one of those is a institutional occupancy, such as a hospital or nursing home. We don't have any nursing homes or hospitals that don't have sprinkler protection. And we put a provision in there that if we were to find something like that, we would give them a couple of years in order to retrofit and meet those code requirements. But regarding the flammable cryogenics, I'll have to get back to you on that, George.
No problem. It was just something as I was reading it, I thought it was interesting.
Those things that we didn't adopt, that was included in some of the earlier versions. We didn't adopt it because we didn't need it then. And at this point in time, because this new version does include other things. Specifically, I noted in a lot of the changes that are being made, there are things such as addressing 3D printers and energy storage devices. Things that are more technology updated from 2012 that these updated code does address. But when you take one, you kind of take it all. So
I'll make a motion to amend the code of ordinance for Commerce Township, known as ordinance number 1.051.
Support. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Hans. Item number 5, purchases. Chief Dundas.
Okay, so I know in the board packet, you guys have probably read my purchase requisition, my purchase request. What I'm asking to do is replace some nozzles that are on our front line attack lines. These are hose lines that we call cross lays. These are the first lines that firefighters pull off to extinguish a fire. Came to my attention several months ago that the nozzles we were using are extremely old. We did have one that broke on a fire that we had on Sunday. The bail broke, which was a piece of plastic on the outside of the lever that's used to let the water out of the hose. I had some guys that I trust that work here that wanted to do some research on this. We had some vendors come in. We demoed several different makes and models of fire hose. We put flow meters on them to see which hoses, which nozzles perform the best. And my recommendation is that we purchase the Elkhart Brass Chief XD nozzles. And this will allow us to replace all of the attack line nozzles for our 4 fire engines, our rescue truck, as well as Tower 14. I was able to get a couple of bids on it. I wasn't able to get 3, but I got 2. And so my recommendation is that we purchase these nozzles out of the budgeted fire equipment fund for $9,828.
I'll make a motion that we approve the chief's request to purchase requested replacement nozzles from Apollo Fire and equipment for a cost not to exceed $9,828 from the fire fund.
Chief, you said this was budgeted. Do you know how much you budgeted? Because I was looking through the fire budget and couldn't find it, so I'm just curious.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't real specific with that equipment account, Bob, but certainly I can absorb the $10,000 in that account to cover the purchase of the nozzles.
Okay.
Molly, did you support that, or is that Vanessa?
Vanessa.
Vanessa, okay. All right. And everybody, when Chief actually started discussing this with me, you guys know I was on the department for quite some time. Not only are those, it looks like we're going to be passing hopefully, but standardization is huge. We have multiple different nozzles throughout the department on different trucks, and I mentioned to him when he brought just for front line nozzles, I said, why don't you just go for every nozzle? So no matter what nozzle you grab, you're using the same product. So he is coming in a little bit cheaper, but just keep in mind there are more nozzles that could be replaced that are aged. And again, when you're going from truck to truck to truck, it's very nice. It's very nice to be able to grab the same product off a different truck on different scenes. So,
Chief, are there more nozzles that, if we follow that concept, are there more, or is this all of them?
These are the nozzles that are used most frequently and thus in the worst condition. There are other nozzles that I will probably replace later, but we could probably do them a little at a time and probably wouldn't have the larger cost of what I'm asking for now.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Sobel,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Burkheiser,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye. All right, Chief, thank you.
Thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Okay, old business. 8585 PGA Drive. So we just wanted to put a placeholder in here to let you folks know that the subcommittee group, Rick Sobel and George Weber and myself took a walk through the 8585 building last week. Kind of looked through the building, talked with Lieutenant Riaz a few times on kind of what she's looking forward in her new substation. After the three of us did a walkthrough, we discussed doing a needs analysis and working with Plant Moran on that. So we did have a discussion with Plant Moran. We did ask to see what type of a cost would be involved in a needs analysis. This would be for what the Oakland County Sheriff needs, and then what the police, the fire department would need from the space they pick up from the Oakland County Sheriff by moving out. And that cost was quite expensive, so we are not going to move forward with that. We are going to attempt to work this with the subgroup along with Lieutenant Riaz and Chief Dundas and move forward from there. So,
Hey, Larry.
Yes.
Can we, or can you guys, and it may not be enough time to do it now, but I would think it might be able to. I mean, we have a discussion session in, I don't know, 2 weeks, end of the month. And so is that something where I don't know what is on the agenda for that, but I think not just looking at police and fire, but I think, and George and I have talked offline, but taking into account the needs for maintenance and what's going on with the church, and do we want to be landlords for places, you know, those type things. And so I think it may be a broader discussion of what the needs and future needs of the township are, the property that we have, and what do we need to do with it? Do we need to continue to own the log cabin? Do we need to, you know, have the church over there on the old, shoot, I just spaced out the address, but the old township building, those type things, can we make other options for that? So I just thought a broader discussion along the lines of what you guys have done might be useful.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
And maybe to add to that, Bob, and I think Molly and I would, and maybe Dave and Jay, we're going to handle it later in the discussion, but we're also targeting the meeting at the end of this month to discuss the overall property strategy subcommittee, meaning all of the lots the township owns, and have at least a first look at some recommended actions for the 26th as well. So maybe that whole discussion can be all of the properties and the strategies. We can maybe divide it into a couple of segments.
I don't want to be all night, but still, I think it's good to.
Well, they're big meaty subjects, that's for sure.
So that's anything else on that? It's Rick, did you have anything else to input on that?
No, just we decided we will probably the next couple months, we're going to meet as the three of us and whatever other people we want to bring in, and we will present something to the board on our suggestions for 85. So give us a couple of months to do our homework and due diligence, and we'll bring something back to the board.
Maybe the March meeting then.
All right, great. Okay, next up, item B, resolution, revised procedures for electronic meetings and attendance. Hans, you gonna go over this?
Yes, embarrassed, probably the opposite of the fire code. Embarrassed to come back a month later and say, I need to update this already, but we need to update it already. After the township board approved this policy in December, the legislature amended the statute and extended the deadlines because it is statutory law and we can't adopt it by reference. I can't simply say as the legislature does. So with that being said, all we're looking to do is to adopt this revised version, which all it does is extend the deadline from January 1st to March 31st.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution revising the procedures for electronic meetings and attendance.
Support.
Sewell, Magnus, Sewell, any discussion?
Then Hans, what is it still something it goes through the end of the year in certain cases?
Nothing else changes. It allows for certain, for certain types of issues to be addressed individually for, a veteran or a medical condition or something of that nature. Declared emergency, for example. But for meeting for any reason is the only thing that's changed, which is extending it to this additional 3-month period.
Yeah. And this automatically applies to all our boards and commissions. Is it up to the township board to decide when boards and commissions can meet in person again?
That's a good question. I think the board does have direction to give that authority. I have advised that the individual boards and commissions should adopt these language for their respective bodies, just to make it clear. I know that the Planning Commission has incorporated, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I believe the Planning Commission incorporated these changes on Monday in their bylaws.
Correct. They adopted the changes last night.
Yeah, last night. Yeah, it's been a long week. But yes, so each body will adopt them once, hopefully, unless COVID changes things again and the legislature changes things again. Once it's done, it's done. But you know, this act not only allows this during the times of COVID, but also outside for limited purposes, recognizing the changes in technology that have occurred over time.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Magner,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Gray.
Aye. Motion passed. Carries. Thank you, Hans. Okay, item 7, new business. Jason, going to talk about the list tech system that we just heard about tonight, the presentation.
Sure, yeah, the presentation covered a lot of how the system worked, answered some of your questions. I prepared a letter with some additional information, but the main point of the project is to not be at the mercy of the landfill and the hauling costs. I know there's several other facilities that are also looking into a solution to the hauling costs. So just to cover some key points, the project would qualify for some percentage of green project forgiveness if we did apply for the SRF loan. We would estimate that to be around 5%. The payback period is estimated to be anywhere from 8.5 to around 19.5 years, and that's mainly dependent on the future landfill costs that we had to make an educated guess about based on past costs. So some of the key dates in order to apply for the SRF loan, we need to submit an intent to apply by the end of January and submit an approved project plan by June 1st. And we talked about some of the timing of getting it in service. If we want to get this in service as soon as possible, we would need to start on the design and permitting to get Eagle's comments on the finer details of what the design is. So that's a little summary, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have.
So Jason, I've got a couple of follow-on questions. This company hasn't been doing this for very long, and they've got only a handful of these. So I would have a concern maybe trying to rush something, particularly trying to rush something by the end of this month. But having said that, is this the only company doing this type of regeneration? I mean, I would assume this, I know they have a patent for their process, but the concept of turning human waste into fertilizer, I'm assuming, is not a new concept.
No, and the other proprietary solutions would involve adding a lot more construction to the project, such as adding a building to store actual material. This one kind of works out because we have a storage tank right there that this product can be stored in. The tankers can come in and load, but there are other ways to you would dry out the material and turn it into something that is like more of a fertilizer that's bagged. So there's some other technologies like that, but those would involve a lot more construction costs.
So if the Gibraltar area or South Huron Valley gets this plant up and operating, rather than sending our waste to a landfill, could we send it to that plant and just give it to Gibraltar and have them turn it into fertilizer to go sell?
I'm not sure what the size of their design is, but on the opposite end of that, Commerce Township could accept other people's sludge and turn it into the fertilizer. So that might be something that we use some of the space at the plant for in the future. We haven't gotten too far into that, but that is a possibility. Pontiac is doing something with their plant now. It's a different process. I think it's a $35 million drying facility, but they're in the process of looking at that solution. So you might be able to take it to them.
So I guess part of it is, when do we, it's always a fine line when you want to be a leader and when you want to be a fast follower. And I'm not, if this company had been established and if there were 100 facilities across the US doing this, well, that'd be one thing. But I think I counted 4 that were running and another 1 or 2 that were, in the early stages.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's a relatively newer thing. If you can tell from the landfill costs before 2015, going up 10% was not a big issue, but last year going up 85% is really what caused us to look at this in a lot more serious light. And also a lot of the regulations are changing. So we don't know if landfills are going to accept this. So we would have to take it to another plant to get it processed.
So if there are surrounding communities, so Pontiac, for example, is already moving forward with a different type of solution, I guess I'm trying to understand what the alternatives or what our options might be without having to forego a $5 million capital expense.
Well, even if you're going to not process the sludge into the fertilizer at your own facility, you would still have the hauling cost of getting it someplace else. You wouldn't be paying to dump it in a landfill, but you're still paying to haul it. And that's a lot of the increase, is it not, Jason? Is the actual hauling cost, or is it the dumping fees?
It's mainly the dumping fees, but the hauling costs are a big part of that. So you would need to haul it somewhere.
So if we were to move forward with this, was a $5.4 million. I'm not sure on the financing and how we would pay for it directly. Would we need to notify Dawn Lund at UFS to see if that would have any impact in our rate setting studies that she's done? If that's something that, if we don't get the forgiveness, or from a cash flow standpoint, I think I kind of like to get her input before, if we do move forward, before
this was already in our stuff projected for this year, wasn't it? Didn't she include this?
It's a bonded project. She included it as a bonded project in the year 2021, I believe, actually. But she also looked at the payback calculations. I sent them over to Molly. She looked at them. The project forgiveness doesn't affect the cost a lot. It's maybe 5%. It's the $200,000, which is a significant amount, but that doesn't really change the payback significantly. If you look at the sheet, even getting 10%, it goes from 8 with no green project forgiveness, it's 8 years, 8 months. With 10%, it's 8 years, 5 months. So it's the landfill costs that are really controlling.
So it's not, because there's going to be up to like 18 months for construction, all that. So there's going to be this overlap. So we're going to be running potential to still having the tipping fees and the transporting costs. Plus, I'm not sure when our first payment would be. I'm assuming it would be way before the 18-month period. So we're gonna, I don't know if she took into account having like duplicate costs, if that's the way it's going to work. I just want to make sure that, when she did some projections, now that I don't know if she had the real data or not. So I just want to just kind of reach out, have someone reach out to her and see, maybe Larry can reach out to her or Molly and see, hey, with this information, does that change anything from what you've given us from your, was it 19 or 20 projection?
Sure, we can get her the information.
And I just maybe I'm being a little bit redundant. It just seems something like this that is affecting all of the communities within Oakland County, having some kind of a discussion with their surrounding municipalities. Just, what are they looking at? And is there is this the type of project that we could partner with other communities on?
Sure, and Oakland County operates the Walled Lake plant too. So there would be some collaboration there. I don't think their plant is set up to install this system, but it is a concern. And I think when Listec originally looked at this, they were looking at handling the sludge from both plants because they're obviously having the same issue with the landfill costs. But we can look at it. I looked at the most recent SRF submittals in order to complete an intent to apply. That's like a 2-page thing that basically describes the project. So I could easily put together some more research and answer your questions for next month, and at least maybe get that in. It doesn't lock you into going for an SRF loan, but we would need to get started on the project plan because that has to go out to a couple public hearings. And that's by June 1st. So we would still have time to do that.
So is there, other than the unknown of the dumping costs increasing, I guess it's unclear to me of what the urgency is on this versus, I guess, a little more study of the issue. And I do think that at some point in time, I think we're all going to have to go to this kind of a model. This just feels rushed to me.
This is the first time that we've brought it to the board with a presentation, but it's been talked about for well over a year, just with the Water Resource Commission, with some of the full-time staff. But there's no rush besides the fact that you have the landfill costs, which we'll know in May what that increase is this year for the next year. So we'll have more information. SRF loans, I'm under the understanding that it's once a year thing. So if we submit the intent to apply the project plan, and we don't submit the project plan and continue on with that, we have to wait till the following year to get any possible green project forgiveness, or we go out for our own bonds and lose out on the project forgiveness. But it's not an emergency besides how concerned you are with the landfill costs and what might happen in the future with those.
Jason, during your due diligence, did you talk to any of the other communities that they're working with currently?
The Water Resources Commission actually went out and visited some of the sites that were in operation. They came down to our plant and showed us what the actual product looks like. But a lot of the upfront legwork was done by the Water Resources Commission to see if it was a viable system, and they were confident with it.
Are they suggesting them to several other communities in Michigan then?
It doesn't work in every setup like it works easily with this one. The systems that they operate, they are looking at ways to control landfill costs, and this was one of the options that they looked at. It just works. It works well with this plant compared to Pontiac plant.
So Jason, when you said we could accept sludge from other communities, I mean, that's not coming through the sewer system. So what do? Truck it over and, for lack of knowing, dump it into the tank and it goes through the process?
Truck it over, or we actually looked at installing a pipe from the other treatment plant to ours. That was kind of cost prohibitive for them to do, but it would be trucked in, is what I would imagine.
So obviously, if we're processing it, then they would absorb those costs of bringing it here. And then in theory, we would get the benefit of selling the product, if that's what you're proposing.
They would absorb the cost, but they wouldn't be paying the landfill costs. So they would have to do their own cost benefit to see if it's worth it to them. Similar to what we would have to do if we didn't have another option.
Where are we trucking this stuff to physically? Do you know?
I don't know which landfill it goes to.
I mean,
I think it's within an hour.
The airport, or is it 100 miles away? So
I might have that information somewhere, but I think it's within an hour at the most.
Okay. But you said the major cost is the landfill dumping piece, not necessarily trucking, or was it vice versa?
There's a part of it that's trucking. There's 3,000 tons a year getting hauled out. So
most of it's dumping.
About 14 trucks a month.
And then there's a concern that they may not, at some point, they'll give us the notification that they won't let us dump there anymore.
either that or regulations could change that say you can't put it in a landfill. It might need to go to a special landfill with methane extraction or something that is just makes it cost prohibitive.
Okay.
So, and just if I'm, the revenue sharing numbers, after their management fees. So it's, let's say that the cost got to the $7, was it $7 a ton for the fertilizer? So if you cut that in half and then cut it in half again after you get to their break even management fees, you're at a few $1,000s a year that would come back to Commerce.
I'm looking at it right now. It's going to take 3 years before you get anything, but yes, you're exactly right. It's not a lot of money. You're not making a ton of money on our flow. It's like $3,000 to $5,000 after the first few years.
Yeah.
We're not looking we're not looking at this as being a money thing. It would just lower the overall costs. So it's a matter of making sure we have to me, it's a matter of knowing that we have a potential long-term plan that we can get rid of our waste. And as we continue to grow, as opposed to being relied upon to dumps or taking it somewhere to be incinerated or whatever the steps are, I guess.
Is there, how do we contract with the landfill? Is that?
It goes through Oakland County, so they bid out all of their countywide hauling costs at the same time, and it's divided between the different systems that they operate.
Okay.
All within Oakland County.
So it sounds like it's an annual, so it's not like there's a 3-year contract for this then,
I believe that there was 2-year contracts before, but ever since then, it has been every year. So the last couple of years, it's been every year. And last year's increase was 80 something percent.
So Jason, if we were to give direction to move forward, that allows you to apply by the end of the month for whatever the intent is. Does that obligate us at some point to continue, I guess?
No, what we would do is get it through permitting so that at that point, once we have permits, once we know what the SRF project funding is, we can come back to you with final costs to say, do you want to move forward with this? So,
and that would be about the time frame.
That would have to be middle of the year, probably like August, because the project plans need to get reviewed by Eagle. It might even be a little bit later, maybe October. That's why my time frame is not the same as doing the Gibraltar one. They might not have gone for SRF funding, or they might have already been through that process. So when you asked how long it takes for them, I think they said 9 months they're going to have it built. Once we get to that point, they can get it to 9 months built, but that's when we have gone through the SRF process. They have some agreements to sign, and also getting through permitting. I mean, Eagle's gonna ask us a lot of questions on this, even though they like the idea and they know the process. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of work on the permitting.
So what kind of cost is there for your time or whatever the process is, permits, all that stuff? Because we would sort of be obligating that. So how much would that be?
Yes. And that's what I put in the letter is $270,000. 175 of that is Listex cost to get their design together. And then we have consultants that would put together the electrical, mechanical, and piping process work for them. They also don't have a Michigan PE, so anything that needs to be stamped by PE, we would need to review that design. But that would get us through 30% design, which would allow us to get a permit from Eagle to come back to you and say, here are the final costs. We have it permitted.
So we have to get it free. We're obligating roughly $300,000 out of this.
270,000. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Whatever. Okay.
Would we have to get it permitted if we don't follow through this year and have to redo it next year?
Permits from Eagle are usually good for 2 years. So.
Okay.
So we would have it.
So do we have a backup plan if they pull the plug on us tomorrow?
Eagle or Listec?
No, if our where we're
Landfill.
landfill.
Oh,
Gonna dump it at your house.
right.
I live on, okay.
They would probably have to haul it to someplace that processes it or find someplace that would burn it. I don't know the contingency plan tomorrow, but I would assume that if they say we're not that if there was an Eagle requirement that you could not put it in a landfill, they would give you some time to implement the solution. They wouldn't say tomorrow.
Is that if that happens, is that our issue, or does the county under our contract, would they be responsible for that?
The township pays the costs that the county just bids it out and make sure it gets done. They operate the system. You pay that's part of what the county charges you as part of their operating maintenance costs. So it would be Commerce Township's cost because we own the system.
Just out of curiosity, Jason, if our disposal, hauling and dumping cost just went up another 50% next year, what kind of number are we looking at?
For total cost?
Yeah.
Or payback, or I mean, we're paying 200.
Total cost of dumping, is it extra $150,000 a year if it goes up 50%, or is it more?
We're paying 260,000 right now. So
it'd go up another 125,000.
If it went up 50%,
you're looking at 390.
Right. So that's why we did the paybacks with the 10, the 22, and the 35. Could be more than that. Could be less.
What are you looking for from us tonight?
At least to be able to submit the intent to apply that says that there is some interest in looking at this. I can get you more answers. Ultimately, we'd like to get started on the project. I know there's some concerns and it's a big project. So the minimum, if it's something that we want to look into, is to get the intent to apply. I'll fill that out and submit it by the end of January and get you whatever answers you need for February.
But is this moving forward with Listec or Listec?
Yes. Yes, like I said, this has been, they visited the plant, counties visited their facilities, felt comfortable with it. They've been working with us for over a year. So I would have to find, there's proprietary companies that do this. So it would be another method of doing the same thing, but I would have to start working with them, get them all the drawings, get them our flows and everything. So it would kind of be starting over, but we have all that information. So we could look at other things or at least get general costs. You know, if we need another building, that's a big cost.
So I guess maybe a follow-on question would be, we know where our total expense is $260,000, or it was for 2020. I guess it would be interesting, at least for me to be able to vote on this, would be what's the breakdown between trucking and landfill costs. My point of asking that question has to do with if Pontiac is investing 35 million, or if there's potentially other solutions that we could move our waste to without having to bear a $5 million expense. I just feel we should understand those, and if they don't fit, then they don't fit. But it seems like a lot of money right off front now. And again, and I know you and appreciate all the work that you've done on this, but I guess I just in a day and a half haven't had time to digest what this means or to understand what alternatives might be.
So as a opposing view, I guess I'll say, I think moving forward is a minimal amount. We would still know by May what our dumping / shipping costs are going to be, and Jason can certainly provide that. I understand what you're saying. I just think it's almost like the water tank issue from 10 years ago or however long ago that was. You know, we need to do something, and it took 2.5, 3 years to get it online to where we finally started seeing some savings. And so I sort of look at this in that same fashion. You know, yes, they only have so many plants in the United States. They've got, I don't know what I saw dots on there. It looked like maybe another 10 plants or so in Canada, multiple ones in and around Toronto, Ontario, and all that. So take a field trip there if you want, except we can't get across the border. Anyway, that's sort of my thoughts.
But Jason, if we approve the intent, that doesn't obligate us to the 270 or 260, right? That we can wait till next month when we have more information.
Yeah, you can, and the intent to apply is minimal. We'll submit it.
So I'll make a motion that we move forward with at least the intent to supply, or intent to move on, or whatever the heck you want to officially call it, and try and get more data back for our February meeting. And I think that's a minimal cost. So that's my motion.
Support.
Okay, motion by Burkheiser, support by Phillips. Roll call.
Burkheiser. Phillips.
Aye.
Weber.
No.
Creech. Aye. Magner.
Aye.
Sobel.
Aye.
Gray.
Nay.
Can
Carries.
Motion carries.
can we review what information you want me to bring back in February? I know the Pontiac plant and the cost to haul it there. What is the difference between the hauling and the landfill costs? And then other options and probable costs.
And maybe just your counterparts on other, you know, outside of Oakland County. I mean, this I'm assuming is a statewide issue on this. And how are other, if there is any kind of information out there that's somewhat aggregated that you can get your hands on, what are other people looking at?
Okay.
What's Novi doing? Where do they send their stuff now? Do they take care of their own?
The Walled Lake Novi plant
That's
is
Walled
landfill.
Lake. Novi sends it all to Walled Lake.
Yeah, it's hauled. It's landfill.
So anyway, so to me, what their concerns are, and possibility of working something out where maybe they dump it with us, or as George said, I do think maybe we take our stuff instead of trucking it to, I have no idea, the airport and dumping, you take it to Pontiac at some point. So, but yeah, those type of options, I think would be good to have.
And also to have Don look at the cost implications. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Okay, next up, item B, Cascade Street traffic barrier. So tonight you heard citizens that live in the Russell Beach Association in your packet. You had a letter from Michael Drew and Colin Fabian, who is the president. You have what's proposed, the traffic barrier for the street. I don't know if you wanted to hear from Mr. Drew or Mr. Fabian on the project.
So Larry, let me ask a couple questions first. Do we know has White Lake made a decision?
They're going to be on White Lake's agenda this month, so they have not.
This month? When do they meet? Do they meet I thought it was tonight. Did they meet tonight? Well,
I
it doesn't
believe they meet
matter.
on the 19th.
Next Tuesday.
I did talk with the supervisor over there, and he said more than likely they will move forward with it.
The one point of content, just so you know that with the residents in the Collin referring to the apartments, new construction, that's 100% all in White Lake. It's nothing, it's not commerce at all. I know a lot of times they don't know where the dividing points are between the communities, but so we've had nothing to do with that. And whether that's going to contribute, increase traffic flow or not, I have no idea.
So that was part of the traffic study that was included in, and just for everybody, I will give the Russell
Beach
and the Cascade Street and the Russell Beach Association credit, because they win the record for the most pages ever submitted to a board pack. I think somewhere 160, 170 pages of that, and the vast majority being the the traffic work, and a lot of that traffic work is, I believe, is, at least as I read, was related to the Four Corners. The numbers I saw was roughly from Cooley Lake Road heading west that was going on to Cascade were roughly 100 cars a day that I could see. So it was at least that the way that I read the traffic report. As it relates to and maybe this might be a question for the chief, when I looked at the barricade, and I did talk to the chief and said, understanding how narrow Cascade is, if they put that barricade in there, is there enough room to get a fire truck through? And he said yes. But if the intent is to really limit that cut through traffic, would a more cost-effective solution being just to cut the street off? So there's Glade Street intersects with Cascade, probably, I don't know, maybe 40% of the way down or a third of the way down from Cooley and Union Lake, where it would provide a turnaround there. So there would be more than one way to get to the street and to turn trucks around by going on Glade and taking Glade back around to Cooley Lake Road. But I don't know what that would do, Chief, if you had to enter Cascade from Union Lake Road. And so I don't know that there would be any way to turn that around. So maybe that's just one question I had in trying to get to the intent of what they're trying to solve.
So I also had a question as far as the placement of the barricade. What would happen, or is it possible as you're going west off of Union Lake Road to kind of make up a point between where the residential and the commercial is and block it off that way? That would stop, so the people could go west to get to the commercial, the gas station, the real estate, and all the other things, whatever, but not allow to go past that. Why not put it there? That way it would prevent people from going straight across into the subdivision altogether.
But what they're proposing starts right past, I'll call it the alley behind the businesses. So you would, in theory, you could go straight into the street, but then you would have to turn, I guess a left turn, and head south on the alley. I don't know what else it would be there. So. Yeah,
so just for reference, on page 239 of our deck is the Oakland County or the Road Commission's drawing. And it is right at that 85, I think it's, or 8455, but the business, the office building that is right there is where the barricade ends right now, or I'm sorry, where the barricade starts right now. And I did see, I verified that business, or at least the property management company for that business, did sign on as being in favor of it. There's going to be a period of time where their parking lot is going to get a significant amount of traffic involved, because as people go and they see the barrier for the first time, the only place they can turn around is pulling into their parking lot to turn around.
So could it be a concern that people are just going to drive around the barricade, or is it, I mean. Yep,
until Wendy has some cars out there to start writing dual tickets for going the wrong way in a one-way street. I would assume that, especially early on.
Early on, especially. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
People will be doing that.
Could we do a berm like some of the other ones? Like in Gulf Manor, it's actually a berm that goes all the way across with then a guardrail on top of that, so that you can't four-wheel over it. There's a way to just block it off that way.
Because they're only talking about something being about 11 inch, or it's 8 inches high, it looks like.
Can't hear you, Bob.
Bob, we've lost your sound, Bob.
Can't hear you, Bob.
Here?
Yep.
All right, I don't know. I mean, to me, it looked like it was a roundabout. So if you go around these roundabouts and you take part of them up on the top, because, you know, as people drive on them. So to me, it seems like it's almost like that. And the other issues I have is, in general, we use tri-party money to more affect more of the township than one neighborhood that's got, whether it's 114 houses I read or 50 houses that they commented on comments. Even if you took that full amount and did an SAD, it's about $25 per house a year that they would pay for their own. So, and I don't know if they never even considered an SAD to take care of that. I know when we passed the resolution, we agreed that said that's fine, but it would be at no cost to the township. And now everybody's coming back.
Including using tri-party funds.
Correct. That
So
was
can
the
we use
original
tri-party
decision.
funds? Is legally, are we allowed to use tri-party funds since it's not benefiting the township as a whole?
Yeah, so that's why the cost is low, is because we would use tri-party funds, so would White Lake, and then Oakland County would chip in the rest. So it would be, I believe it's 25, 25, and 50%.
Yeah, so no.
We have had a policy in the past, Larry, that it has to benefit the township as a whole, not just one.
All right. So to answer Bob's question is, for like the remaining money that they're asking for Commerce, they would not be able to put that on a SAT because it has to come from the tri-party funds. I asked that question already. They could do the whole thing underneath the SAT, but when I have tri-party funds, it's not going to be.
Well, the whole thing was listed at about $30,000, and if you took, I don't know, 100 homes and divided it by 10 years, I mean, to basically do the math, it really wasn't. It was. I did it. It was about $25 a house.
Okay.
For the whole project. As far as tri-party, we're splitting the township piece with White Lake, so we're paying. Our third is really a sixth. White Lake's a sixth, and then the county and the road commission have a third each.
So I guess and just by the way, so I went out there twice this week, once in the morning, once at night, and sat in the 8255 parking lot and just kind of watched. And I saw some traffic. I didn't see onerous traffic, but I saw people that were going faster than they should have. I do have a concern setting a precedent on something like this. However, my personal opinion is this is unique enough that it's not precedent setting. And if we were to make a motion to spend not more than $5,000, I would not have any problem supporting this out of the tri-party funds. I think understanding that we want to start building a bank of tri-party funds for Union Lake Corridor, but this is an insignificant amount as it relates to those projects.
I agree with you as far as it being insignificant, and I think it's a needed project, or something needs to be done over there because it isn't safe. Whether we should pay for it or not is the question I have. We approved a resolution as a board unanimously to support their project with no cost to the township, including using tri-party funds. So what good is our resolution if we're going to go back on it?
It's a fair point.
Well, we get more information, we should be willing to relook at it. And I think.
And it is a new board, so not everybody that voted on that was on the board list.
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't exactly work.
Like that. Work that way.
I'm just not happy with the design. I'm suspecting now people going the wrong way. I don't understand why, if there's going to be a barricade, there's not a barricade that's perpendicular. So it's like literally go the north-south barricade, so they can't. I mean, it's just a true barricade. You can't get through it either direction.
Well, so this design is the design that I see is the road commission's design. Now, is that? So I'm assuming they're the ones that proposed this solution. If that's not the case, then
I don't know the answer. I don't know.
So can we have either Mike Drew or Colin Fabian answer those questions for us?
I would think the road commission, if you're going to close a road, I'm guessing they might have something to say about it. So that's probably, you want to know that answer, my guess.
So Ken, can you ask, or if somebody can raise their hand by hitting *9, if it is Mike is on the call still.
So Ken, it would be number 3856 would be Mike, and 6052 would be Colin, if either one of those numbers is.
Yep, we have them. Go ahead and press *6 on your keypad there, 3856. Go ahead, caller.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
This is Michael Drew.
Go ahead, caller.
So Mike, the question for you, Mike, is the design for this, I'm not sure what the right term is, but this berm or this structure that will take up the westbound lane, was this a structure, or was this proposed by the road commission as a solution, or was it the Russell Beach Association that proposed the one-way solution and then the county just designed to it?
Good evening, board. Thank you for hearing this matter and hearing me tonight. To answer your question, our initial proposal was to block the street at the point that, I'm not sure which trustee made, but at the point where the office building at 8255, the property line, the west property line of that. And that, as I understand in discussions with Commerce, White Lake, and the county, they would not block off the road because of fire, police, and rescue being able to access that area, turn a fire truck around, but also in the event of an issue on the area of Union Lake between the two Cooley Lake intersections, in the event of an issue there, fire and rescue wanted a secondary method of reaching the hospital instead of going around the lakes. And so it was then that the Road Commission proposed Plan B, which is the barrier in the westbound lane. It was their design. They have, as I understand it, the curbs on it are 8 inches tall with a concave area over the center. And of course, there'll be signage. There'll be signage at the entrance to Cascade Street at the east end, signage at the west end, and there'll be signage at the berm as well. But there also there might be some landscaping on the berm itself.
Thanks for that information.
So if it's okay, I'd like to speak to that comment a little bit.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So what the fire code requires on an access road for emergency operation is that if a road is blocked, let's say instead of having the blocking just the westbound lane, you block the entire road, that would only be permissible if the length of the road was less than 150 feet. If it goes greater than 150 feet, then you have to provide some sort of turnaround for the largest fire apparatus that we have, which would be our tower truck. So you would have to provide some way of allowing that vehicle to turn around. There's other people that need to be able to turn around too, just not an emergency, like for instance, a trash vehicle or something like that. If they had a long run, that means they have to back down that entire road. In an emergency, that takes a really long time to do. So still allowing us to be able to go the wrong direction under lights and sirens situation would allow us to not really have any slowdown, but still take away people being able to drive westbound. It's primarily the reason it wasn't blocked off with the original.
All right. Does anybody have?
If it was blocked off with a perpendicular gate with a Knox box, wouldn't you be able to get through?
That would be an acceptable alternative, a gate, that's correct.
Like the one at Bus Drive that we put in, or Bus Road, or over there?
it could be gated with emergency operation, yes.
Mike, do you have anything else?
Are you speaking with me, Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I may just comment on that last issue, as I understand the road commission's, it is a county road. Some of these other examples were local subdivision roads. And this was a platted subdivision road that belonged to us, 50, 60 years ago. They did take that road over, and I think the board can agree that the road commission has designed this method to serve as an offshoot to force traffic down this little street. It's an intolerable situation. And I know that you have a lot of concerns, budgetary and other reasons, but from our perspective, this is a project I personally began in 2013 in cooperation with the road commission and all manner of people. It wasn't some sort of one-off that led us to this point. And I think you can tell by our preparation that we have been down this road with all manner of state, county, local governments. We've spoken to the fire chief, we've spoken to the lieutenant, we've spoken to White Lake extensively. There just really is not a reasonable alternative. And I thank you for your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mike. Does anybody else have anything else?
Did we determine, are we able to use tri-party funds because it's not for the benefit of the entire township?
We can. I mean, we can use them. The only thing close to this that I remember is we did Far Street there on the end for the school buses.
But we had to fight for that, didn't we? I mean, that was kind of a.
I don't know how much we had to fight to tri-party, although the road commission and everything else have written this program up. So you would think that they'd be inclined to approve it. The only argument I would make on the Far Road is that it was more than just that street. It was really all the schools and all the buses and people coming out and the whole, everybody that drives down Commerce Road there or South Commerce Road. So I think it did affect more than just that, but so anyway. We can almost do what we want with tri-party money.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions or anything? Well, I'm going to make a motion that we support Cascade Street with the we're spending up to $5,000 of tri-party funds for the blockage for the one-way road.
Support. And the only thing I might add is that it's just to verify that it's conditioned upon our ability to use the tri-party funds for that not to exceed $5,000.
Can I get you to revise your motion to say only if White Lake also supports it?
Yep, I can say it. Yep.
And then just so you know, since I know this is new to you, Larry, on the $5,000 as an estimate, if it turns out to be $8,000 or $10,000 or $12,000, are you still committed to that?
Nope, I said $5,000. That's what they came up with.
I understand, but that's, I believe, who's going to pay the difference?
Well, I think if it comes out to more than that, then I think it has to come back to us. I agree with Larry, up to 5,000. If it's beyond that, then it's. I think we're doing the right thing up to 5,000. So,
and maybe I don't know if Hans is our expert on this or not, but it's I believe from past experiences with this. It's just an estimate until they actually go out and get the true bids, whatever, we won't know what the amount is, and then a year later or so, you get the final amount of what that is.
Well, they've got 3 bids here.
I know, but that's not the road commission.
I mean, if we're doing tri-party money, it's then going to the road commission to manage and do it. And I think Rick's probably correct that if it came back and our part was 7,500, we're committed to 7,500. So, or we need to stick with, to me, I think certainly the road commission will know what the bid is. And so they need to make sure that White Lake and Commerce Township knows what that is. Who works with the road commission. We just need to let them know.
If it's more than the 5,000, are the residents really willing to pay the difference?
With what? You can't do an SAD because you can't combine an SAD with the tri-party.
I know, yep. So let me just let you know, it's when we're spending our own money, we can put caps on it, but when you're going through them, it ends up being what it is. And we get stuck with the difference.
Okay, so make the motion if it exceeds 5,000, we need to come back to the.
We can do that. You probably might have to ask the road commission. They may not accept that. Generally, a lot of times, Hans, a lot of times they just want a straight up yes or no. They don't generally allow us to put conditions into their bidding process.
Rick, your exposure with tri-party funds is probably far greater than mine. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Okay.
So if we move forward with this, then we really don't know that it's just $5,000 to Commerce Township. It could be more.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's a small project. It's not going to be like 100,000 or anything, but like I said, it could be more than the 5,000.
I think originally it was 43,000, 45,000, somewhere around there. So if that was true, I'd say 45 because the math is easier. That's 15, and that would be 7,500 to us and 7,500 to that. So there's a potential that it could go up to $7,500, I guess.
And I guess if it doesn't work out well, we've learned our lesson. We won't do it in the future.
All right, so do I need to make change to my motion at all then?
Yeah, can you read back? Yeah, so we're clear on what the motion is, or can Cindy or whoever?
Can you read back the motion?
Do you want me to read it?
Please.
Motion by Gray, supported by Weber, to approve up to $5,000 toward the installation of a traffic barrier on the east end of Cascade Street due to unsafe traffic conditions. This is contingent upon using Commerce Township tri-party funds and approval by White Lake Township.
Not to exceed $5,000. Or did we remove that?
Okay, so we got to remove that 5,000 then, Rick? Is that what you're saying?
No, okay.
I would keep it.
You can leave it in and see if the county gets it and they say no, you'll have to figure out what our other options are.
All right.
Larry, you're going to need to reach out to them and keep in contact with them, I guess.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Ray,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
No.
Burkheiser,
No.
Magner,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion carries. Okay, Mike, we'll be in contact and I'll be talking with White Lake.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Yep, thank you. Okay, item C, Township Hall Sewer Connection, Mr. James.
Yes, this is a proposal to connect the Township Hall to public sanitary sewer. Right now, we have a couple septic tanks and we've had issues of some backing up. We have to pump them quite frequently. Last year, we videotaped the sewer line coming out of the Township Hall over to the tank. And there is a belly underneath that, or in that line, and it's underneath the pea stone patio on the south side of the building. So right now the lead comes out of the rear of the building near the cafeteria end, and then turns and goes east to the septic tanks. So the plan is to, where it turns to go east, we will connect, cut the pipe there, tie into it, and run it due south down the, what would have been the old 18th fairway, but is now the open space that goes south. It'll go all the way down to Windcliff Drive, where there's a manhole that we will tap into and put a drop connection in. We requested bids from 4 different companies. We only received back bids from 2. They were very close bids, actually. I had to call and confirm that they were bidding apples to apples, but they were within $225 of each. So based on that, I would recommend that Al Swisher Excavating be awarded the project. Their bid was $22,000. I do ask that you put a $5,000 contingency on that for 2 reasons. One is because it is an old golf course. Sometimes they would run their own drainage pipes throughout the golf course, and I don't know where those are at, if they're there at all. And then 2 is, I believe, based on the past bills we've had for pumping the tanks, that there's only 2. However, I counted 3 separate lids out there, and unless one tank has a couple lids, there might be 3 tanks that we have to end up pumping. So I asked for a $5,000 contingency, which would bring a total of $27,000.
Is that a grinder pump?
No, this will all flow by gravity.
Is that including, so is this cost including the crushing and all that kind of stuff with the tanks?
Yes.
Jay, how far are they running that? It sounds like it's running a heck of a long way.
It's about 500 feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out of the manhole all the way down at Windcliff Drive, and we're going to run 6-inch pipe up about 300 feet. And the reason I did that was I don't know what the plans are ultimately for that property. Maybe restrooms. I know there was talk of, using it as a amphitheater, park, movies, whatever we might do. But if there was ever an idea to put restrooms out there, I thought we'd increase the pipe size for about 300 feet, and then it's 4-inch up to where it ties into the township hall. And we'll install clean outs along the way. So if we ever have to, we can get in there and clean it out. But as you know, the ground runs all downhill to the manhole. So we're going to pretty much just keep the pipe about 4.5, 5 foot deep the whole way. We do have to cross underneath the sidewalk right up by the building, but I'm thinking we're going to be able to do that without ripping up the sidewalk. We're going to try to just bore underneath it. So I don't think it should be a big problem doing it. It's just the existing septic tanks and septic system are starting to near their end.
When's that proposed to do it? Is this a springtime project?
I was thinking of doing it as soon as we can. There's a little bit of frost in the ground, but not a lot right now. Once they get through the top 6 inches, I don't think it'd be a problem. So I know Al had called me yesterday. I think he is wanting to get at it as soon as he possibly could. But if for some reason there is more frost in there, it could turn into a project later, but I'm going to try to get it done as soon as possible.
So what are our sewer bills going to be?
I didn't calculate those out. We do assign REU value, so I'll have to do that, and I can get you what the estimated cost will be, but I did not calculate that already.
Do we pay our own?
You do pay your own.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with Al Swisher not to exceed $27,000 for the Commerce Township sewer connection.
Support.
Any discussion? Further discussion? Okay, motion Burkheiser, support Sobel. Roll call, please.
Burkheiser,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Weber,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
I'm assuming the cost for this will come out of the building improvement fund.
Yes.
I guess I recommend it comes from there. I shouldn't say
Bob,
that.
you let me down, Bob. You didn't ask if it was budgeted.
I thought we had this budgeted, actually. I remember we've had this discussion
It's in the
before.
budget.
It might have
It's
been.
in the budget this year.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Motion carries. Okay, thanks, Jay. Item 8, orders.
Move the orders and add-ons.
Pardon?
Support.
Sole support by, who was that?
Whatever.
Weber.
Weber,
Roll call vote.
Sovol,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Burkhizer,
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Gray.
Hey, other, go ahead.
I'm a little disappointed. This is the first time in over a year that I've had no questions on an order. And nobody noticed. But I will make up for it in other matters.
I've got a list of other matters.
So are you saying I should start with you, George, a little bit?
Sure, and I will try to go as quickly as I can. I do think that ex-supervisor Scott and now resident Scott made a good point. We should have somebody in the township that monitors when flags should be reduced to half-mast, just as a normal course of business.
We have that under control.
We do. Perfect. Okay.
I signed up today to get those emails.
The a question for Rick, I believe, Lower Straits Lake. We talked about the beginning of this year, like at the very beginning of this year, we wanted to have a meeting with regarding Lower Straits Lake weed control. And I'm just I'm questioning if we've got anything, if there's any plans to do so, and if so, do we have dates that we're thinking about?
So I'm going to kind of punt to Larry. I introduced John Levinson to Larry, and that's one thing I was going to ask for is an update on what you guys, if you finalized anything or came up with anything. So let's turn that over to Larry.
Yeah, so we had a good discussion, I believe it was last week or the week before. He gave me the history of what's happened with the SAD there and a little bit of history with the lake itself. So what we're going to shoot for is try to sometime here in the spring have a public meeting get the group together and discuss the future of the SAD and discuss the future of moving forward on that. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the process.
So one of the things, the issues where some of the permitting has to be done around by now. You run in January so they can be done. That's why it was going to part of it this year, part of it next year. The reason you can't have the meetings is you really don't. I would discourage you from having the public meeting or their meeting now is you got so many people in Florida and in Warren State. So it's kind of wait until they come back. So that's been one of the issues. So like, I don't know, April, May or something like that. And then at the same time, I was going to suggest that would be maybe an opportune time if we can work with Hans to have the new wording for the next SAD is to, since you're gonna have so many all together, is to be able to maybe start the process in advance on the SAD, the new SADs. So we can kind of have like a 2-for-1 when we have that meeting.
There's also, I mean, Rick did a nice job. Larry, I'm not sure if you have it, but a list of the things that we committed to or we wanted to make sure were done. And one honestly had to, my question is, well, I have two on that, is one, if there's a requirement to get boats and weed things in there, there needs to be a way that development allows that to get done. And the other was that if our current person that makes the decision, I don't remember his name, Dr. whatever,
Dr. Pullman,
doing a good job, then maybe we need to look for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I can tell you, so I was contacted by somebody that sits on the Water Commission for Upper Straits Lake, and they are looking for somebody as well right now. So they have used Dr. Pullman in the past, and right now they're looking at, I think, the same person that Wolverine Lake uses, and I'm not going to get the name right, but I think it's like Mike Heisner or something like that. So there are some people out there. It seems to me, though, I thought there was an urgency to get the ball rolling to get the process in place. And I guess if a large percentage of people are in Florida, then they can participate via Zoom. But I don't know what we get by waiting to lock down what the process is.
My recollection, and maybe I'm mistaken in this, Rick, you probably have better, there's a lot of discussion on this, was that one of the things we did want to look at is additional consultants and or locking in contracts with those consultants. As you may recall, in the past, we've had trouble getting the contracts despite significant efforts on our part to get it done. So I don't know, if we're going to go with a new consultant, that's something else we need to go with early. And if we're not, even then, I would still encourage us to go forward and get a contract locked in, because Dr. Pullman has traditionally not been responsive on contract negotiations.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've done most of those, but there's that public hearing, which we had, but their annual meeting should be done. I agree with George. It should be sooner than later, and they can do Zoom. And then there's the bid process, if that's what we're going to go through. And again, for them to start treating the lakes, that needs to be done, I think, February or whatever. I mean, they need to be ready to, when do you usually treat the lakes? Isn't it usually June timeframe?
So it can be anywhere from May to July.
Okay.
But first you have to get approval from DEQ, Eagle, whoever is considered now. And I think that permitting process is usually done in January or February. So I'm not sure if it's been done already. I don't know if it's crossed Larry's desk or not.
So who's responsible to get the permit?
I'm not sure if that is.
Chemicals.
Is it Jeff Knox, the applicator?
I think that's right.
I believe that's correct as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so the invoice did come through, which I did sign off
Was that for last year or this year?
on.
Yeah.
For this year.
For 2021.
I believe
Like
it's for
Tom
this year.
said, they're not great at doing business. There's been sometimes where we didn't get a bill for like 2 years.
But that was not from Aquatic Control, which is Jeff Knox, right? That was from Dr. Pullman. So I'm sorry, Larry, the invoice that you signed, was that from the aquatic service? The Jeff Knox, the application of the chemical, or was that from the biologist or the marine biologist?
I believe it was from Jeff Knox, but I can't get into my computer right now because
And then so the other thing is on the Jeff Knox, we want to see if it's the charge for the chemicals he did from last year, or if for the charge for the permit process going for 21. And if you want any help with this, Larry, just reach out to me. I'll be glad to get involved in any way you want. Have a conference call, or we can get Jeff. You can have a hard time getting Dr. Pullman, but John Levinson, Jeff Pullman, we can do a conference call if you want.
Yep, I'll have an answer for you guys tomorrow on that.
Okay, moving on. We've talked a little bit about this already, but Dave Campbell, Jay James, Emily, Molly, and myself met again today on the properties across the township. Our plan is we're going to meet again next week, and we hope to have a preliminary recommendation to discuss with the board at the 26th discussion meeting. Final item, I know that the township or the board has more of a, I guess, a policy versus anything else on not making resolutions for things that don't have a direct impact on Commerce Township. So limiting the number of resolutions that could maybe not be as valuable. But I would be remiss if I didn't comment on just 2020 or the last 12 months. I think Wednesday was one of the saddest days that I could ever remember. But it's not just Wednesday. It was the civil unrest and the violence of the last 12 months. I'm a bit of an originalist, meaning I believe that the original language in the Constitution is sacred. But I also support peaceful assembly. But when it's not peaceful anymore, all of those people should be prosecuted to the greatest extent of the law. We should maintain free speech in the First Amendment, but when people cross the line, it's crossing the line. And way too many people have been crossing the line in the last 12 months, on the left and the right. That's all the other matters I have.
Thank you, George. Well said. Mr. Sobel?
So my issue is between Dave and Lieutenant Riaz. What the heck are we going to do with all these lights? The bridge lights that keep disappearing. What is our game plan?
I'll go first. There's two kind of sets of lights that have been subject to theft. We've addressed the first set, which is the ground mounted lights, which if you'll remember, we had a local fabricator come up with this, what we call a clamshell, where you can put a padlock through it and it makes it so that no one who wants to get down to the base of the ground mounted lights and remove them from their base is able to do so without being able to unlock that padlock. So hopefully that addresses that issue. And so far, nobody has taken any more of those ground mounted lights. The latest lights that have been stolen, which we think happened sometime late summer or early fall, is the lights that are actually embedded in the deck of the bridge, and they shine up at the two sails at either end of the bridge, the east and the west side of the bridge. So there's 3 of those lights on either side for a total of 6. Of those 6, 3 have been stolen. The challenge there is the manufacturer, if you use any other screws to fasten those fixtures together and fasten the lens cover on those fixtures, that voids the warranty on the fixtures. So we've had conversations about putting in some tamper-proof screws to deter any more theft. But again, if you do that, then you void the warranty. So something of a catch-22 there.
Well, but there's no, you can't have a warranty on something that's been stolen.
That's why it feels like a catch-22. There are tamper-proof screws we can get, and we can give them a shot. The other thing, and this came up with the Planning Commission last night, is when Adams Outdoor Advertising finally puts in their billboard on the west side of M5 and the west side of the bridge, which we thought would have happened by now, they have already agreed to allow the township to use that billboard as something of a perch to put some cameras up there. And they've said that we can use their power to plug those cameras in and use those data to remotely monitor those cameras. And while that doesn't necessarily stop someone from stealing the lights, at least hopefully we would have cameras that would catch it, and maybe we'd be able to identify whoever does it. And if we were able to put up some signs, discrete signs that say, smile, you're under camera, maybe that would give everyone a second thought before they would do something like this. But that's with those flush mounted lights, the 3 that have been stolen, and hopefully the other 3 that don't get stolen. The best option that I've been able to see is some tamper-proof screws to keep them in place.
Is there anything, since the waves are gone on the bridge before they come back, is there anything that we could retrofit through there to allow us to put cameras to point down or towards any of the lights?
I don't know that it really makes a difference with the waves being down or not, whether we can do cameras. Maybe with the waves being in place, those cameras could be more discreet perhaps. But the bigger challenge is, where do you plug them in, and what are those cameras talking to in terms of data? So in other words, we'd have to get a power source up there for those cameras. I mean, obviously those lights are using electricity, but it's not as if there's an electrical outlet sitting there waiting for us to plug in some cameras. There'd have to be some significant electrical work to get power to these hypothetical cameras.
Well, that was my point. When the waves are gone, is there the time that we can run, a conduit before they go back, so it'll be hidden by the waves?
I don't know that the waves being there or not there makes it any easier or any harder. As far as getting electrical service to the bridge, I'll give it some more thought. And obviously, I'm not an electrician, but I don't know that the existence of the waves is what makes the difference.
When is Adams, have we talked to them recently to see what they're thinking of doing?
It's been a couple months now since I've heard from them. The last I did hear was that they had a regional person who wanted to reevaluate the site once the vegetation was off all of the the trees to get a better sense of what the view was from M5. And so I know they were checking in with me every so often in the fall to say, hey, what percent would you say the leaf coverage is now? And I would reply to them, say it's about at 50%. Now it's at 30. Now it's at 10. So I don't know whether they did that eyeball evaluation. I know that their window to do the project is somewhat dependent on MDOT when they allow vegetation to be removed because of the restrictions, because of migration patterns of the long-eared Indiana bat. And there are some trees along the west side of M5 that would have to be cleared in order for the billboard to go up. And so MDOT has restrictions on when those trees can and cannot be removed. So I don't have a direct answer to that question of what Adam's timeline is at this point. Like I say, I would have thought they would have done it by now. There was a while there where they were really eager to get this thing up, and they wanted the bridge to get done, because once the bridge was done, then they were allowed to put up the billboard. But that bridge has been up now for over 2 years, and that eagerness from Adams didn't come to fruition, at least not yet.
Anything else there, Mr. Sobel?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Vanessa Magner, Ms. Magner.
Real quick, I was just wondering if there was an update from the DDA and if there's been any word if the project's still moving forward.
For the downtown area?
Yes, yeah.
We really don't have anything new. I know we're going to be talking with Akins here. Something I think in March is when the game plan is to discuss moving forward, where he's at moving forward with that. But other than that, I know the partial across from Pontiac Trail has been sold. I believe it's partial K to a self-storage. So there'll be a self-storage unit going up there. And with really nice plans. Dave, did you anything else?
Andy, to give us an update maybe next month.
Yeah, yeah, I can.
The best update I can give is that Akins has, at least verbally, or from what has only been conveyed to me verbally, has made a deal with his residential partner on the residential component. And I don't think it's a secret anymore that that's Mickey Shapiro and Jim Galbraith, who of course were responsible for the Barrington development on the west side of Pontiac Trail, west side of Martin Parkway, and also the Shearwater development up at Beck and Maple. So I've had conversations with Mr. Galbraith in late 2020, and he has said that he and Mr. Akins want to get back in front of, with me and then with the Planning Commission to get the project geared up with the hopes of breaking ground in what is now this year. But that's the best update I can give you, is that they're telling us that now that they have this partnership between the commercial and the residential developer, that they're going to want to get back in front of the Planning Commission in early of 2021.
Well, I know he convinced us of extending certain things a year, and I think it's reasonable to try and get an update and get an idea. I don't know whether that's needs to be done in closed session or not, but I just think it's probably been close to 6 months since we approved that, or maybe more. So it'd be nice to know that things are on track, or is he coming back in 3 more months to move stuff, to ask for us to move things again? So
I'll have definitely an update for you.
Thank you. And then just out of curiosity, has there been any rumblings of anything going in at the old Hillers at Union Lake and Commerce?
Nothing recent. So the story there, as I understand it, is that was originally a Farmer Jack, then it was a Hillers, and then it was a Kroger, or it was Kroger bought out Hiller, and in so doing, they assumed the ground lease that Hillers had on that property. So Kroger owns the building and they own the parking lot, but they don't own the dirt underneath it. And so they're paying essentially rent to the property owner. And Kroger has been looking for someone to assume their ground lease. And obviously hasn't had any takers. We get calls every so often from potential users, but they would have to make a deal with Kroger and with the landlord, and nothing has come to fruition.
Is it true that Kroger?
For the library or potential library site, and at that point, the lease was only, I want to say, 2 years left on the lease, so they should be pretty close to being out of it by now.
For some reason, Bob, the year 2025 comes to mind as far as when that lease expires, but I would need to double check. I haven't had a reason to look at it for a while.
It is several years.
Is it true that Kroger has something on there that a grocery store cannot go in there?
It depends who you talk to at Kroger. I've talked to folks at Kroger who say, we want to get that thing off our books so bad that we don't care who takes it off our hands, whether it's a direct competitor like a Plum Market or whatever it might be. They've told me that their Kroger store, that of course is Kitty Corner, being the super Kroger, whatever they call that model where they've got apparel and everything else in there, that store is of such a size and such a volume that the size of the old Hiller store really wouldn't be much of a competition to them. But then I've heard other people from Kroger say different, that they would not want to see a direct competitor go in there. The name that keeps coming up.
I'm asking essentially is because I don't know if you guys shop there, but they can't keep food on the shelves. Like it's pretty crazy. So, and it's almost sad. And so I was hoping something was going to start moving, even and essentially even the downtown area. So
the name that keeps coming up that isn't particularly exciting, at least to me, is Big Lots. That there's an interest from them, but at least so far that has only been a rumor.
We had Big Lots across the street.
Yeah. Turned into Planet Fitness, I believe.
Yep. Well, actually got ripped down, didn't it?
Well, that used to be the Kroger.
Yeah, it was in the old.
You mean where Kroger used to be Kmart.
Yeah,
right?
The Kroger moved around a couple different times on that block.
Yeah.
Okay.
Used to be Kmart, Kroger, and then Kroger built, Big Lots moved in, and then they switched over. So.
Yeah. All right. I'm just waiting for, Whole Foods or Trader Joe's to come to town. And I'll keep waiting.
And at least as far as Whole Foods, they know that they're the what everybody wants. Commerce is not the only community that would love to have a Whole Foods, and Whole Foods knows that.
Yeah.
So they're very selective.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Burkeiser.
I have a couple, I'm hoping quick. We were supposed to have odor control meeting. Jason, has that issue been moving along there over at whatever the heck it is there, Byers area?
Yeah, we had a meeting with the county last week, and they are going to start doing the monitoring the first week in February.
Okay. The other thing I had is I know George might be able to answer about the apartments over by the Home Depot that went through planning last night. Was there a decision made?
No, it was just an informational, and I'll let Dave jump in here. But it was an informational. They came to the Planning Commission with some concepts for apartments. I think they did an outstanding job. I think the Planning Commission sent them back with some concerns, but also some areas and things that they liked. It wasn't unanimous within the Planning Commission on the thoughts specifically as it relates to density, but I think there was an overall positive vibe given back to the Schaefers, who would be the developers, and they have a track record for building some things that look pretty nice. So it would be a combination of high-end rentals with a price point for a one-bedroom. So basically similar price points per square foot of the Barrington project. So roughly $2 a square foot. They would have roughly 30 to 40% of their units would be one-bedroom studios, and the other would be two-bedroom. Of the 25 acres, 20 of those are developable, 5 of those are wetlands, and within their area, they would have a clubhouse, they would have a dog park, they did a very nice job, I think, of having a significant amount of green space. So they know they have work to do. We let them know that the board always has concerns when it comes to rentals, and specifically anything that's around 3 stories. So Dave, if I missed anything, jump in.
No, the only other thing I was going to mention is because they're proposing this as a planned unit development, a PUD, then it does have to come in front of the township board in the form of a PUD agreement. So the board is going to have some authority over this one, assuming it gets a positive recommendation from the planning commission.
So was there any discussion about infrastructure? And where I was leading to up in that area, it's, I mean, to me, some of the roads are bad. That loop road is horrible. So if we're going to spend tri-party money, I'd almost say, let's look at that loop road area, at least that first part, probably 14 mile. But so was there any discussion on roads and those type things?
Not loop road specifically. This project wouldn't have any direct access to loop road, but there was a traffic study that was done that focused primarily on Haggerty Road, and some of the recommendations of the traffic study, which right now is a tough time to do traffic studies because traffic patterns are way off because of COVID and kids are, learning from home and everybody's working from home and so forth. But it is likely that a new traffic signal along Haggerty Road would be warranted at what they call Springvale Road, which is the private road on the south side of Home Depot and the south side of Staples. So it's very possible there would be a new traffic signal there where it intersects with Haggerty, and also a widening of Haggerty Road with an additional southbound through lane. But again, the traffic consultant is saying it's probably something we want to take another look at in 2022 or whenever we get back to normal, whatever that's going to look like, to have a better sense of what the traffic improvements would need to be.
And my last one is People's Express. Emily, I was just going to ask that I've been looking at the numbers, and I know this is not a fair time to look at them, but instead of just reporting this month or last month, can you put a table in there so we can actually see what's been going on for future reference? So we've got 12 months up there or something each time. Cool, thank you.
Yep.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Molly Phillips.
I have 2. One is I just wanted to let the board know, I had planned to do this last year, was to go out for a request for proposal for banking services. Our pricing with PNC keeps going up and the services doesn't change, and it's always, as painful as it is to change banks, I think it's always good to look at what else is out there that can serve the township's needs for our regular banking. I was going to do it last year after tax season was done, and then COVID hit, so we never sent anything out. I've got a couple of recent RFPs from other townships in the area, and that went out over the last couple of years, and I'm going to run them, do some tweaking, and try and bring something back to the board in February so that we can make sure it covers all the legalese that we have to have in there, and then send them out and see if we're getting the best banking deal or if somebody else can do anything better. I don't think I need approval to actually go out for the RFP, but I wanted to let you know, and if you want to turn me down, you can do it in February. And the second thing is, I was really bored the other day and I started watching our public TV channel. And we have a lot of names and a lot of updates that need to be done on that, and phone numbers that fall into the next line, and Richardson Senior Center or Community Center activities posted for July of 2020. So just, I don't know who's responsible for that. I jotted down a few things, but even the fact that we appointed, sorry, Emily, the fact that we appointed new board members like Keith Reynolds, and obviously there are other boards like the township representative on the DDA and all that kind of stuff. So
where is their public TV? What
Channel 20.
Channel 19 or 20?
What is that on what service?
Comcast.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't get it. Okay.
I'll get it taken care of.
Thank you, Emily.
Is that
That's
it,
it.
Melody? Okay, thank you. Melissa Creech, you have anything?
I only have just one request is that anyone, for any items on the discussion, if they could forward them to me. So I make sure the agenda's what you want it to be.
So should
For
we,
the discussion session?
Yes,
Okay, so what do you have on it now?
just what you talked about tonight, the
Tonight? Okay.
85 PGA and township board properties or township owned properties. And I also have a note that Mark and Molly were going to do some sort of DDA presentation or something, but I could be wrong.
well, that might be plenty, just those 3 items, because I think they could be pretty meaty.
Okay. That's all I have.
Is that it? Okay. I just got a few things, just an update. So last month, Molly asked about 3400 Union Lake Road. Went over there with Mark from the maintenance department. We ensured that the building was locked up. We actually put a lock on it so we could get in it. With no trespassing. Jay is going to be, and I believe, did Judy already take care of this, Jay? Shut the power and the gas off to the building?
Yeah, I can't remember which one. One of them is turned off. The other one we're waiting. We expected them to be out within a week to 10 days.
Okay. And Jay's department will be working on getting demo bids for that house. Hopefully we'll have that hopefully next month, and hopefully in March, hopefully start the project. As well as I wanted to thank Jay for taking care of Lakeside Marina. I know we had some calls on that. Drove by there this morning, and finally all the boats are gone. The front actually looks decent, so we just need to make sure that we stay on top of that. And I've already talked with Lieutenant Riaz about patrolling that to move that forward. And I also like to thank Lieutenant Riaz for assisting. I don't know if anybody noticed, but the movie theater that is abandoned started turning into a semi parking lot. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but she went over, her officers went over and started getting some orange stickers on the windows. And I drove by there the other day and there's nobody there. So thank you so much, Lieutenant, for taking care of that. Even though it's not on the agenda, I do want to let you know I am going to continue to work on the code officer, try to come up with a couple different ideas for you folks on what we might be able to do. Just so you know, the last quarter of 2020, we paid $10,195 for fees to Kurt Industry, and in January 2021, we paid $27.47 for code enforcement. So I'm going to be looking at a couple different options, seeing if we can get another contractor, or just kind of, I think we really need to look at what the total cost is of this. And I'm working with Janice to see what the insurance cost is and so forth on that, so we can have a true cost for that. Mr. Campbell did a great job. There's a project that came out from Oakland County called the Revitalization Program for surrounding residents. He was able to retain 3 greenhouses, 8 outdoor heaters, 75 propane tanks, 4 electrostatic cleaners, and 10 gallons of cleaning cleansers for surrounding restaurants that we have. So Mr. Campbell has a great job. Thank you for taking care of that. I know that we spread that out to quite a few restaurants, and we are really pleased with what.
So what restaurants can we now go out and eat outside, since there's not that many?
So Dave, which one? I know Sidecar received an outside time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm going off memory. The 3 greenhouses went to Sidecar, CJ's, and Village Grill. And then those places also, I think, each got 1 propane heater. And we got propane heaters to Benzine Grill, to Kickstand. Well, I want to say there's at least one other that I'm not thinking of. So I mean, we didn't get a lot of stuff. Oakland County didn't have a ton of stuff. And then, of course, had to be spread across the 60-something cities, villages, and townships in Oakland County. So we did our best to fairly spread out what little bit we were able to get.
I did hear some very good feedback on the igloos at CJ's. So people said it was a great thing to do, and they made it very easy to reserve them.
I was there this weekend with I'll say a small group, and they charge a $50 deposit that comes off your food bill, so you're not paying for it. The only, I won't say complaint, they give you 2 hours, and they're very specific because there's people right behind you. And the only issue was, you sit, talk a little bit, then you order some food. And if it takes them 45 minutes to get you food, there wasn't a whole lot of time to do that. So that's a minor complaint. But overall it was great. So yeah, I would encourage you to go.
And just a little update on 8585, just to let everybody know, we are down to 2 tenants. So the Brown Agency moved out last month. So we're down to 2 tenants.
When are the leases up?
Pardon?
When are the leases up on the 2 tenants? Are they a while?
Well, we're working on one right now, which I hopefully will have a report on in a couple months. And the other one goes to as an option to, is it 2023, Molly, that we looked at?
I think so.
Yeah. So, but hopefully we'll be down to one here pretty soon. So that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything else? How about a motion to adjourn?
Support.
Kaiser, support?
Support.
Wagner, roll call, please.
Burkeiser,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Creech, aye. Phillips,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Sobel,
Aye.
Gray.
Aye. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned, 10:01, 10 minutes earlier than last month.
Good night, all.
Take care, everybody. Have a great night.
Getting better.
Good night, everyone.